for the Monero community, where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
Alrighty, Tux, what's going on, man?
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I feel like it's been a while. I feel like, I don't know, I haven't spoken to you in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you were it was a little bit of a different stream last week, being at PorkFest, but you know.
Yeah, did you? How did you perceive it from your end?
It looked pretty. It looked like there's a good amount of people. It looked. I mean, we didn't get to see, like just their stall for the most part, but there's a lot of people that came by, a lot of people that wanted to talk. It was really cool seeing Jeremy Kaufman come by towards the end. That was awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd say overall, definitely a success. The weather wasn't the best, but even in spite of that, the event was great. Thousands of people were there. Not as many people as last year, I'm being told. I wasn't there last year. I've been to previous ones. I think I've been to 4 now. But yeah, last year they had Vivek Ramaswamy, so he brought a large crowd, and RFK Jr. So I think this year, not as many people went, but it was still fantastic. In terms of Monero, oh my God, I think we definitely accomplished our mission. The Monero tent was a major success, I would say. People coming out over, chilling out. All the best people were coming to hang out at the Monero tent. And just in terms of Monero being accepted and spoken about at PorkFest, it was just all good things. Everybody was accepting Monero or open to the idea of accepting it. Most already knew about it and were accepting it. We did that map. The map thing, I think, was awesome. It was great. It was actually a lot of work walking around with the map, trying to get people to, trying to add them to the map. But each thing turned into like an hour-long conversation, even if they already were accepting Monero. It's just like we're just like talking now to somebody who's excited about Monero. But this is how these things go. But I would say fantastic indication for the health of Monero adoption. PorkFest is the true petri dish, right? It's not some fabrication. It's a bunch of liberty-loving people that actually believe in these ideals of opting out and using alternative means of money. They've been doing it since before Bitcoin existed, and this group of people are into Monero. So that means it's working, right? If it's gaining roots there, it's working as intended. It's acting as the best form of money. People are like, why not? Super cheap to send. Nobody was using Bitcoin, traditional Bitcoin.
Really?
I didn't even see anybody using the Lightning network, to be honest. Most people use Monero, Bitcoin Cash. Dash is still spoken about because there was like a lot of Dash people that used to go to PorkFest, but nobody's really using it. As far as I can tell, I would say Monero and Bitcoin Cash were the two most used. Obviously, goldbacks, right? Everybody accepts goldbacks. So goldbacks, and then in terms of crypto, I'd say Monero and Bitcoin Cash. So yeah.
I mean, goldbacks and Monero, it's like the killer combo, to be honest. And
Yes.
you'd probably say so
Speaking of
over the
which,
times that you've gone to PorkFest, there's been an upward trend in Monero usage by far.
yeah, I mean it's always been there. It's always been known, right? That was what drove me to PorkFest originally. I wanted to see if people were using Monero there, because if not, I see it as a problem. It's always been there, and now I'd say it's pretty much taken over.
Wow.
So goldbacks, guys.
Man flexing his goldbacks over here.
I shouldn't be doing it. It's fun though. It's fun. That's what makes it
so
fun.
Pretty. Yeah, I mean they're cool.
They're so pretty. So I ended up coming home with a lot of more goldbacks than I wanted. Actually, just because a lot of people wanted Monero. So we had a sign up. We'll buy gold backs off of you for Monero. And obviously, everybody, I'm not in the business of selling Monero, but I had a need for gold backs. I can't. I needed some physical notes that I could use for trading. There are some people that only accept gold backs; they don't accept Monero. So out of a need, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll acquire some gold backs. But a lot of people came up to me and they're trying to get Monero, so that was also a very good sign. There was a high demand for Monero, people trying to obtain Monero at the conference.
Wow.
So yeah, like a lot of Monero. Yeah, there are people that wanted a lot. I'm like, guys, I only need so many gold backs right now.
There you go,
the
guys. It looks like Monero is actually the one that's used in the real world, at least
Yeah.
for this sort of niche convention. But it's easier to use in the real world for sure.
Yeah, and when we say niche, it is niche, but it's a niche group of people that are actually early adopters for this type of tech. So it's very indicative of the fact that it's working the best out of all others. And the fact that people are trying to get their hands on it. You always have like Alaska Anon talking about that, right? And how in Alaska people want Monero. I don't think he's bullshitting.
You saw that firsthand.
I think Porkfest, I think parts of Alaska, from what Alaska Anon is saying, is like a living Porkfest. It's just libertarians, right? So I think we obviously we need to be there every year. So join the chat. We have a Telegram chat that we use to coordinate for this year. But I'm telling people, jump in now if you're interested in coming next year. Year goes by fast. We could definitely use more people to help out. Not sure the same people will be able to do it next year. Not sure I'll be even able to do it next year. Maybe if I go next year, it might only be that I could show up for like a day or so. So definitely jump in that chat. Let's make the tent bigger and better than ever. Get more people to come. Get spots next to us. Come sell something at Porkfest for Monero. And just maybe even turn it into kind of like a mini Monero conference at Porkfest. Like a mini Monerotopia. We could have that's kind of what it's started to turn into, right? We had talks going on at our tent. We could potentially get a larger space. They have the large tents down in the valley. There's some groups that buy larger tents down there. Brownstone was one of the groups. It's there was the I think they call it like the hard money tent, or it's a sound money tent. I guess it was Bitcoiners behind that. I'm not even sure. But maybe we do something like that. Get a larger tent area, and we could have 3 talks a day, and kind of a conference within Porkfest. So everybody at Porkfest now that's already attending Porkfest can come by the Monero tent and learn about Monero. Maybe they could come watch somebody, come watch a Monero dev give a talk. So that's obviously we're always moving on to the next thing, but I think why not? It's blossoming there. I think we might as well feed into it. And then anybody new that's coming to Porkfest can come learn about Monero. So if you're interested in helping out with that initiative, jump into the Telegram chat. I don't know if we could share it here. Tux, do you have it by any chance? Probably not.
I can grab it.
Yeah, throw it in there. Guys, jump in that chat and we could slowly talk about this. People can coordinate, get as involved as you like. We could rent the spot earlier than we did. This time I just grabbed it 2 weeks ago. We just happened to get lucky that somebody backed out of their spot, so we grabbed that. But maybe, we organize it a little better. People step up. We get a larger spot and make it even bigger next year. Anything else I want to bring up? Oh, Copa Monero, guys. So the Copa Monero Kuno. Tux, can you bring that up?
Mm-hmm.
Copa Monero is full steam ahead. We had the first 2 games we broadcasted from MoneroCon. I guess that was 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago. It was super cool. We had Cake Wallet playing Xano, and we had Firo playing Basic Swap. So each team gets a sponsor. Right now we have 4 teams that have been sponsored, but now we have our next series of games up. So we need more sponsors. We need more team sponsors. And in general, we just, we need more donations to the Kuno. Definitely reaching out to the community for this one. The Copa Monero has essentially become part of the Monerotopia conference budget. So, it's like an additional $10,000. We're doing it because we think it's like, like PorcFest, like all these things. We think this is a great initiative for growing Monero adoption. So it's a Monero tournament that's taking place in Monero town, the one place in the world where there's a town where a group of stores are accepting Monero. People are trying to use Monero. Like we need to be there to support these people. And we came up with Copa Monero as a means of doing it, which I think is fantastic. And so basically 12 local teams to Iberete, the town in Formosa province, are playing for a chance at winning the Copa Monero and a large Monero prize. And we need donations just to keep it, it's all this came out of our pocket, our budget, Sunita and I's budget that we use for Monerotopia. And there's real costs that come along with this. We have to hire security. I mean, these soccer games are, if anybody who saw it, obviously it's not the World Cup, but it's a big deal for these little towns, and they do it in the right way. They hire professional referees. There's a lot of little costs that are involved, and then the Monero prize itself. So right now, I think we're showing the prizes being 10 Monero that will go to the winning team. I want to get that up to 50 Monero. Get that up to let's make it a really big prize. And the prize is it's not going to some organization, it's going to the team that wins, to the team members. They'll split it among each other, and for all their hard work and entertainment that they provided, they will come home with some Monero that will be very significant for them. A lot of them, it's a poor area in Formosa, so it would mean a lot for them, and it's now a way to kind of seed this area with more Monero, and they could start using it among themselves even more than they already are. So I think it's a fantastic initiative. It's happening whether you donate to the Kuno or not, because I'm committed to it. Whatever comes at a loss, but it would be great if you do donate, and most importantly, it would allow us to raise the Monero prize. So definitely want to get the word out on that. Oh, somebody should boost it. If somebody can boost it for us, that'd be fantastic. I guess I could do that myself, but it'd be very cool if somebody did that. You could make it. You could basically pay to boost it, and that would put us on the front page. And yeah, guys, that's really. Oh, I guess the one other thing I want to say. So we talked to Alessandro last night. Actually, we're considering getting a Starlink for them. If anybody has good information on that, maybe jump up in the chat. I think I saw Prancing talking about Starlink. Give us some good info on that. I'm trying to make a decision as to whether or not we should get one. I think it might be worth it. And then I might use the Starlink for the Monerotopia conference as well. Tux, what do you think?
I'm not sure how. I've never used or seen one myself. I mean, they provide pretty solid internet, like if you're in a pretty remote area.
I was using them at
place that
PorcFest. Yeah.
Oh yeah, now you were streaming through that, right?
Yeah, we're streaming through that. It's mostly because I don't know if you experienced the issue that we had when we played the first two games. They lost power, so we're gonna have a
Yeah.
generator. We'll have a generator this time, but now we're considering Starlink too, because not only did they lose power, they lost internet too when they lost power. Like the whole town went out. The whole power went out in the whole town. So I guess the internet went down as well. So with Starlink, conceivably, internet wouldn't go down. So it's not like the internet quality may be greatly improved, but the reliability of not losing internet might be better.
I mean, you were able to stream surprisingly well using it last week. It seemed I didn't realize that you were actually using that for most of the time. So
Yeah. And so I think that could be cool. Ana, man, what is he saying here? I'm in a neighboring country to Argentina, and it works great. About $350 for the hardware, and then $100 a month. Yeah, it's kind of like a no-brainer. We got to do it. So we'd have it for the entire tournament. So guys, so $350 for the hardware, $100 a month. So I think we're looking at like 5 months. So like $500. So let's say $1,000. So please donate to the Kuno. If I see another $1,000 come in, I will go ahead and get the Starlink, which I think would be great, actually. All right, that's really all I got in terms of the those things. I mean, we can talk about XMR Bazaar, but we could continue with the show. XMR Bazaar is full speed ahead as well. I've made, I think, 4 purchases now. Tux, have you tried it out? Have you gotten on?
I have not
mingled?
purchased anything yet, but I am planning to put some stuff on there very soon.
Okay. Yeah, guys. So no fees. Let me bring this up. As everybody knows, there's no fees. XMR Bazaar is never part of the transaction.
Cheese.
I bought. Yeah, so I'm bringing it up. I bought
Amazing.
this. It just got delivered yesterday. Haven't tried it yet. So very excited. So far I've gotten gold backs. I purchased a library of like libertarian books. That was like a digital download. It was instant. It was very smooth. I ordered cheese and it's been successfully shipped to my house. So I gave him a good review. And and the pizza. Where's the pizza? Let me bring that up. Let's see. Where are my profile dashboard? Go to dashboard, my listings. Oh, so I was posting a lot of businesses at PorkFest, so that's why it's showing them all as my listings. I was putting these vendors up, which is very cool. Yeah, deliver me a pesto pizza. So it happened. This happened like 2 days ago. Finally coordinated with somebody. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They placed an order on the pizza shop's website. I guess they used their credit card or whatever. They ordered me the pie, and I sent them the Monero through XMR Bazaar. So I took the risk. I paid him the Monero ahead of time, but he pulled through, and so now he's gotten a good rating. I don't know if you could trust him to, send you $2,000 in gold backs tomorrow, but he's so far he's got a good rating. This guy, he pulled through. I sent them whatever $30, $40 in advance for the pizza, and he sent me.
That's pretty awesome.
He did it. Yeah, very successful. So I'll be doing that. If he's willing to continue to do that, other people are willing to earn Monero through buying me pizzas. I order at least one of these a week. So there's some Monero to be made if you're interested. But yeah, guys, jump on, use it. Don't let this is how we do it, right? We can't just like talk about a circular economy, parallel economy. We have to build it, and right now we have literally all the tools we need to get it going. If we get like 10,000 of us on this platform actively using it daily around the world, you could be hiring whoever, wherever, to do some consulting service for you. Think outside of the box. There's things you do every day that you're using money for, that who knows, put it up on XMR Bazaar as a wish, as something you wish could be provided you for Monero. And that's how we could start to get it going. If enough of us get on it, we have the skills and assets among each other to start living off of each other with Monero. So very excited about that. Very excited. But enough shilling for now. I guess we could should we do price report? Bawdy ready?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Let's do it.
And now for the Monerotopia price report segment.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Just enjoying a lovely Saturday morning. The weather here is fantastic. We finally, it's hot here from like April to June, but then the rain comes in June, and it just cools everything down. Like yesterday, the high was maybe like 80 degrees.
Where, how precisely can you tell us where this is?
Central Mexico, up in the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Fantastic.
mean, I
man.
say
It must
up in
be
the mountains. We're
beautiful.
not like on the side of a, on a mountainside. It's like there's
Man, super remote out there in
Yeah.
Mexico.
yeah.
You love
But
it,
yeah,
huh?
they here like you basically you go up the mountain chain and then it's kind of like this big plateau and then it's really like basically hilly terrain for like most of central Mexico. And the way the pattern, like the weather pattern works here for, I mean, between basically Mexico City almost to Puerto Vallarta, because the mountains come down obviously when you hit Puerto Vallarta. But yeah, from Mexico City to west of Guadalajara, and then north up to like Querétaro and other places. It's just the weather gets beautiful, man. Like everyone else is just dying in the heat up in the north. I hear all the weather reports. They're like, "Oh my God, it's the hottest month of whatever." It's always the hottest month of whatever, like every single summer. But here it's beautiful.
Sounds like a beautiful life, man. Are you coming to Monerotopia?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, sweet. Yeah, how do we grow Monerotopia in Mexico? How do we get a bunch of people from Mexico? I mean, Mexico City's got what, like 13 million people, or like I don't even know at this point, 15 million people. How many people live in Mexico City? How do we get
It's a lot.
0.0000, some small percentage of them that would be interested in, being early adopters to digital cash, come check out Monerotopia. We got to start thinking along those lines.
I imagine it's a lot cheaper to put up billboards in Mexico than it would be here.
I like
Like
that,
advertising
man.
space.
I like
I don't know.
that.
It might
Yeah.
be still a lot. in Mexico City, but
Radio commercials, right? Like, how much
Mm.
could radio commercials in Mexico City be? I mean, it might not be that crazy, right?
I don't know. I would think maybe mostly the boomers only listen to the radio.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so even just social media ads, right? Get on start putting ads on Instagram and stuff. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I
some
mean, even for
ideas here.
radio, I think most of the Ubers I've ever been in, they're usually playing some radio station, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
thinking
like the
too, right?
larger
Yeah.
audience, potentially.
Yeah, because Monerotopia is super open to the public, right? So we ask people buy tickets, especially if you're coming in, you can afford it. Please buy at least a general admission ticket. But anybody that wants to show up, we make it very open to the public. The marketplace is open. The Huerta Roma, where we do it, is basically a public park. So it's open for people to come in and walk in. And then we ask that you have a ticket to enter the talks, to enter the dome. But if you're local, we would charge you a nominal amount if you want to go listen to the talks. And just the fact that they'd be in there, in the arena, in the marketplace, they'd be starting to learn about Monero. People would be out there talking about Monero. We'll have TV set up out there so you could watch the talks outside, right? So it's very accessible to the public. I think we just need to get the word out to them and make them know that it's an event that they can stop by at, right? It's just like a thing to do on a Saturday. Let me go check out freaking Monerotopia.
Did you check out the Bitcoin bar last time?
Which?
There's a Bitcoin bar, like I can't remember exactly where.
Yes,
but it's within
yeah.
walking
We did it.
distance.
We did a meetup there in anticipation, but it wasn't. We didn't get that many people to come to the meetup. It was I think actually Sunita ran the meetup. She somehow ended up in Mexico City without me. I forget what the issue was. I wasn't able to go down, and she ran a meetup at the Bitcoin bar. But yeah, we could do that again. We could definitely do that again. Maybe there's universities we can work with. Who would be what would be some good groups to reach out to that would have overlapping
Mexico City,
interests?
I don't really know. In some of the other cities, pretty much all the major cities have a Bitcoin meetup. There's one here in my city. I could probably go there and show Monero. There's a lot of maximalists, so maybe
right. So maybe we
maximalists,
don't try to go after those people, forget the Bitcoiners, right? Forget the maxis, but let's just go after normal people, right?
No, but at these meetups, the complaint that I've heard from maxis is too many shitcoiners show up to their meetings, which means that there's people that would be interested to hear about Monerotopia.
Yes. Okay, I got you.
And I'm also known as not, being a maximalist, so they would still have me. So I'd have to shill covertly. hand out little flyers. I'd be like the drug dealer of the Maxi meetup, effectively, which is ironically appropriate.
Would you be down to do that, to do a meetup in Mexico City? Is that something you'd want to do? We could help you.
I mean, I'm not anywhere close to Mexico City.
Okay.
It'd be like saying, "Oh, well, I'm in Miami, but let me head over to Atlanta to maybe it's not quite
Okay.
that.
Oh yeah, maybe we could find somebody else to do that. But yeah, I'll let you continue with your price report. But guys, yeah, definitely grab your tickets. It gives us more momentum, and just more importantly, spread the word on Monerotopia. If you have ideas for how we could spread it in Mexico, please let me know. And anything else you want to let me know, any other way you want to participate in Monerotopia, we're extremely open-minded to letting people participate and figuring out how you can do it, make it work for you, without giving us money necessarily. We're very open. If you have some project you want to come present and we think it's cool and it's worthy, you come for free, set up a stand, whatever. You could email us monerotopia@protonmail.com. And if you want to be a sponsor, obviously reach out, all that stuff. But monerotopia@protonmail.com. Reach out for anything related to the conference.
I don't know if y'all have the power situation figured out already, but I have a 3,000 watt inverter and 100 amp hour battery that I use for my setup here, because occasionally we lose power. Like, at least on one or two occasions that I've dropped out here on the stream, has been power loss. Which,
yeah, we don't have the power thing figured out yet. I've been very busy with other stuff now that MoneroCon's over. I'm going to focus in on the conference, but yeah, we don't have a solution there yet. Like I was saying before, I'm thinking of getting a Starlink. What are your thoughts on that? I was thinking of getting a Starlink and a generator, essentially.
Yeah, maybe a generator would be fine. I could hypothetically bring my inverter and battery over, and it would be like a zero cost.
Okay. And how would that play into the setup with like a generator? You're saying that'd be more smoother way if power goes down to have a battery backup?
Yeah, exactly. So I basically just plug this thing into my wall. It's like a backups, the uninterruptible power supply. But those things are garbage because they use lead acid batteries and they die quickly. So I have a lithium, like a LiFePO4 battery.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it's a 3,000 watt inverter. So with my current battery, I could run like 1,200 watts continuously for, I believe, 1 hour. So I don't know if
so you think that would like keep the speakers up and running and stuff, you think?
We'd have to do some napkin math on how big the speakers are and what the total power load on the system is. I suspect it's probably maybe like 1,500 watts. So I can't remember how long the power would go down for, but as long as the power is only out for like 10 minutes, it should be more than capable.
Oh yeah, it definitely went out for, I want to say maybe like an hour or so. It definitely went out for a little while.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that was the rainy season, right? That was during the rainy season.
The biggest issue was they were intentionally switching the power because they have their own generator. And I think they were like stealing power from the grid. I don't know what they were doing over there, but they were switching it. They were switching it from one thing to the other, and it was.
They probably didn't have a fully active system.
Yeah,
so it got cut off in the meantime while they were switching.
I think we need our own generator, and it's just running off our own generator the entire time. Like it's not on theirs, and then we have our thing as backup. I think we just need to run it off our own generator the entire time.
Yeah, that would be the more secure solution.
So I'm looking into that option. I don't think it's going to be that expensive. I mean, just some gas to power a generator, decent sized generator that we rent, and and then the internet. So
okay,
all right.
Enough about electricity nerd stuff. Let's get into price nerd stuff. Yeah, so we're looking here at the Monero chart, and we had talked about last week. In fact, we've been talking about for a couple weeks that this nice big positive movement that we didn't roll the credits. I don't know if that matters or not, but
yeah, Tux, roll the credits. Yeah, we gotta do it.
Already did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Did we? Oh, okay. I guess sorry, I wasn't paying enough attention. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, we had our nice big sort of recovery from the bottom here from all the fuckery they've managed to pull. And then we came up to this area here, and we said for a couple weeks now that this was really an area to expect some resistance to happen, and that's basically what we've seen. So far, really still holding up pretty well and holding up quite well relative to Bitcoin. and even relative to Ethereum. So right now, this is the Bitcoin XMR Bitcoin chart, and effectively price, the ratio came up to these very long-term lower standard deviations. These are, I believe, some of the longest lower standard deviations. Oh no, I lost my trusty brush. Where did this thing go? Here we go. Yeah, so these guys right here. I know sometimes it can be hard to see them, but those are very long-term lower standard deviations. That's the lowest cluster, I think, that we have currently. So right now we're kind of sitting at that area. Typically, from a wave magic perspective, this would act as resistance. So perhaps we might see some resistance there. Bitcoin has been taking a little bit of a pause in terms of its momentum towards the upside. We'll get to there in a second. It's possible that Bitcoin might see some kind of rebound, and that could negatively affect the ratio, obviously. As far as the XMR Ethereum ratio, we haven't quite made it to the lower standard deviations right here. I really was kind of hoping to see us make it all the way there. I think that we should. It does look to me, and we've talked about this for the past few weeks now, it does look to me like Ethereum is going to have relatively bullish action going into the future. We haven't seen too much. This chart has actually become very uninteresting. The XMR divergences between Poloniex, Bitfinex, Qcoin, MEXC relative to Kraken, right? All of these coins we're looking at their price relative to Kraken. But I would say the only interesting thing that pops out to me on this chart is that Poloniex is no longer being heavily towards the downside. So yeah, we've talked about that a little bit before. Nothing interesting there. The XMR dominance has also come back as well. Obviously, if you have made a rebound relative to Bitcoin and relative to Ethereum, well, then the XMR dominance overall is clearly going to show some kind of rebound. So right now we would be coming up on this sort of horizontal area of significance, but basically we're just defining this area right there, and we're effectively coming up to that horizontal line. That would also probably potentially spell some resistance, although how many people are actually looking at the XMR dominance chart and trading off of it, I have to imagine it's probably not that many. So in terms of like sociology and chart analysis, this chart wouldn't necessarily have as much impact from a technical analysis standpoint, because of simply because a lot of times TA works because other people are using TA. But at any rate, this would still be an interesting place to look at, right? To expect maybe some small amount of resistance. But yeah, Monero's just kind of been chopping sideways for the past week, so nothing really super duper interesting. In terms of the broader crypto market, the big story that happened here is Mt. Gox said that they're going to begin repayments in July. So we're really looking here within the next few weeks. We should be expecting to see people get repaid their Bitcoin and their Bitcoin Cash. And it's been 10 years, guys. So these guys are finally getting their money back. Interesting that they're actually doing it at the top of the market. We'll take a look at how the Bitcoin price was affected by this, but obviously it dropped on June 24th when this letter came out. If you go to the Mt. Gox rehabilitation on Reddit, they actually put a poll up. What do you plan to do with your coin? And so it looks like quite a decent number of people plan to hodl, but if you look at it, it looks like, wow, 38 people keep this. This has got to be, so this is not a scientific this is not a scientific poll here, obviously. 38 people out of looks like 289 total, and I snatched this morning just before the show. 38 people say they're going to keep all their coins on the exchange, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it. So yeah, some people are going to sell completely, dump everything. Some people are going to sell, 50% or less. I wish it seems like it would have made sense sell for altcoins, right? But all they had was like transfer and hodl. So just in a broader context, let's think about after 10 years of forced hodl, how are people going to react? What's going to be the real like expectation here? Well, 10 years is a long time, and life comes at you. Some people are going to be struggling financially, and some people are going to need to sell, right? They're going to need that money for something. Not necessarily everyone has been continuing to purchase crypto, and not everyone is sitting on fat stacks of crypto cash. So there are going to be some people that have to sell. That's just a reality of life. Moreover, there are going to be some people that have moved into the altcoin arena, right? That are no longer interested in Bitcoin. It does look like the maximalist mindset has been waning for a long time. So there's probably a lot of people that are interested in getting into some other altcoin. Obviously, there's going to be people that want to dump their BCH for Bitcoin and vice versa. There's going to be people that want to dump their Bitcoin for Monero. So I think this could possibly be Monero positive, especially in the kind of situation where liquidity is probably lower than it was before the delistings. So there's a reasonably good chance that this could affect our price in a significantly positive way. Obviously, there's going to be people that hodl, right? There's going to be your maximalists that are hodling their Bitcoin that are never going to sell. A friend of mine once told me, he said that everybody eventually, not everybody has to buy, but everybody eventually has to sell. So that's true even under like hyper Bitcoinization. Even in that case, if you're old and you don't want to work, you're 80 years old, you got your stash, whatever, your hodl that you picked up 50 years ago, well, you're still going to have to pay expenses for life. And even under a hypothetical hyper Bitcoinization or hyper Monerization or whatever, you're going to have the scenario where eventually the volatility drops off, the liquidity is massive, and everyone's just using this thing for real trade, in which case you're not going to be getting mad gains anymore from your hodl. And this is going to become more and more true the higher and higher any market cap for any crypto goes. So eventually everyone does have to sell. Maybe not, maybe like you've got, some kind of like yield assets, right? Because you're not only just dumbly hodling. But at any rate, that's kind of what we can expect from the Mt. Gox coins. They're going to finally be released. You can see here, Bitcoin has been dropping off throughout the past week, really throughout the past 2 weeks. How many candles is that? 22. So for the past like 3 weeks, Bitcoin has been dropping off. But this big red candle, if you look down here at the bottom, you can see that that's July 24th is when that happened, which was the same date that they released this. So yeah, I mean, that's completely expected, right? Finally, Mt. Gox is releasing the coin, so you're going to see the speculators dumped the price of Bitcoin. So that's not really like too huge of a deal for price, because things still are effectively going to the weekly now. Things are still effectively following this pleb line towards the upside. This is an interesting pleb line. I normally you don't cut through so many candle bodies, but this just felt like a better way to draw the trend of what's happened, because we had for a while, we had okay, there's the very bottom, like the absolute bottom of the market. Then you kind of connect these points, price broke down, came back up, and then it sort of rode the line here. So this really is seems like the best place to draw the line, and it's kind of interesting that currently this line seems to be holding up. I wouldn't necessarily expect this line to like magically hold support here, especially considering that we have actually broken down this line in the past. I believe that was that was kind of like that was the scare where we said, hey, things might be looking like they're going to drop, and then everything just rebounded to the upside. Again, macro liquidity still being highly present, the ETF becoming more and more likely. This was kind of I wouldn't call it a false breakdown, but this was a little bit of fear in the markets. So right now, the point of that is to say that this line is not like some sort of hard magical support. Bitcoin could break down below this line for a period of time. It would not surprise me at all. At the same time, it doesn't have to, right? It doesn't have to. Things are kind of washing out. Things have consolidated from trying to get to that all-time high. Maybe after these Gox coins get flushed out and people have the opportunity to sell, perhaps that could sort of erase some of the negative sentiment that might be floating out there, erase some of the fear. And if markets still continue positive, and if the Ethereum ETF gets approved, that should be also bullish for Bitcoin, right? It's just broadly bullish in general. It says, hey, crypto is here. It's here to stay. The attacks are largely, for the most part, they're going away, and it's time for the broader society to accept the inevitability of cryptocurrency. So, and in fact, let's actually take a look here at I'll show you guys the other one later. There was another story with the Federal Reserve and 33 terabytes of data. We'll focus on crypto here for now. In my mind, it's Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Ethereum has broken some resistances. We have the ETF is going to be approved. Gary Gensler said before the end of the summer, the ETF will be live. Now the Mt. Gox coins are getting dropped on the market. So Ethereum is going to be the beneficiary of this. It's obviously a lot of that institutional cash that went into the Bitcoin ETF, some of that's going to flow to Ethereum once it gets approved. Again, these ETFs are spot ETFs, which means that real crypto, real Bitcoin, real Ethereum has to get purchased when normie boomers on the stock market are buying the ETF, or traditional finance on the stock market is buying the ETF. That represents real cash flowing into the crypto market, which is why the Bitcoin ETF has been so broadly positive for a decent amount of time. The same thing is likely to happen here with the Ethereum ETF. And let's take a look at the weekly, just so that you can get your bearings on this chart. We have this structure that we call a descending wedge. You can see that, yeah, these lines are actually pretty clearly drawn. This chart pattern has been very long in the tooth. The top line here has been developing for 2 years. The bottom line has been developing for 3 years now. So this is a pretty solid descending wedge. And at the moment, this thing looks like it is breaking towards the upside. So the breakout is not like totally confirmed. But if we take a look at the way that this upper line is formed, you can see that this is kind of your best fit line to try and fit most of these peaks. You don't, like right here, you got a couple wicks above it. You got a little space right there touching a slight wick above there. But right now, this is kind of how the S&P 500 broke back in January 2023. We were looking at this and saying, hey, the S&P 500 is starting to look pretty bullish. Because what happens? You're kind of on this downtrend. You come to the top of the line, you stop here, didn't even make the splitter, right? Didn't even make this splitter right here, and then came back to the upside, and now it's breaking. We are now Ethereum versus Bitcoin. I say we, but I mean, I'm a degen. I'm not going to lie. I gamble, I participate. So right now what we have here is a break, a little bit of consolidation at the line, and then another day above it and another close above it. So we're pulling back today, but still, this is bullish, right? This chart is basically flirting with a full confirmed break of that resistance, that capping resistance line. So the other thing that we're also looking at in terms of the wave magic on a bit shorter time frame here is the upper standard deviations. You can see in blue, right? That's been kind of an obvious place where price has been a little bit stopped out. But you can also see the more longer term lower standard deviations. So the orange bands, so the very top of the orange band is a very common action I see in wave magic, where price is trying to get out of that. Price is trying to break out of these lower bands, and it has its resistance here. So there is like this zone here is a pretty significant zone of resistance, but breaking out of that, which I think could very possibly happen next week. I think there's a reasonably good chance this could happen next week. But if not next week, when the Gox coins start to hit the market, probably this thing's going to break out. What you want to see effectively is a break of those blue bands, maybe some consolidation, and then starting to move to the upside. If you're a swing trader, right, or if you're a momentum trader, that would be your long point, right? You've convincingly broken the downtrend. You've convincingly gotten out of the statistical levels, and then you've consolidated there, and then things are moving up. I mean, from there, you would really expect to get to the longer term blue bands, the blue bands being upper standard deviation. So you would expect price to make it effectively into this area. So sorry to spend so long on ETH, guys, and continuing to hammer it, but I just wanted to deliver to you guys what the price is most likely to do. And right now, the price in terms of crypto, Ethereum is likely to outperform Bitcoin for a decent amount of time. So if you guys are gamblers, and I know some of you are, Ethereum's going to be your better bet here versus Bitcoin. So if you made those nice Bitcoin gains, hell, even if you're maximalish, like maxi bros, just do yourself a favor and like don't be so religious that you keep yourself from the gains. So the other thing too is we can see this in the Bitcoin dominance, same kind of story, except in reverse. We're looking at breaking down this long-term trend line. I've been saying for really a month or so that this chart does look like it's kind of rolling over. The momentum loss was pretty clear here. Effectively starting like right around this area, and now things haven't like fully broken down, right? Like we've seen a little bit of breakdown here before on this chart back in I guess that was early this year, but that was also in like when this thing broke down, that was in January this year, where Bitcoin is about to get the release on the ETF, right, and get a lot of positivity. So right now things are breaking down sort of on the opposite side there, where Ethereum is about to get the ETF and Bitcoin Gox coins are about to be dropped onto the market, and that's like 140,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Oh, we probably have Bitcoin Cash bros listening on the stream too. Just beware, guys. Like you had really good performance early this year. I would say take some of that profit. Like you're about to get a lot of maxis with their hands on some BCH. And what do you think they're going to do with those coins? Right? Like it's pretty obvious what those maxis are going to do with those coins. So you could have some price problems coming up for you. So I say, take a little bit of profits, maybe rotate it into some other. The other thing too is that with the Ethereum ETF, And with the Gox coins, we're looking at, generally speaking, we are probably looking at some kind of alt season on the horizon. So there could be some opportunity for some like particularly poignant degeneracy. So just prepare your minds for that. Speak of the devil, this guy right here, TRX in green, in dark green. TRX has been performing. Okay, all right, good for Tron, good for Justin Sun, good for Tether. They've got a nice big pump here. So yeah, just expect we could be going into a degeneracy season. That, of course, will always be predicated on what is the macro doing. If the macro is crap, and we're looking at higher tail risk, there could be the potential that maybe those gains get muted. Although I have a little bit of a theory here where if we get tail risk, the higher the tail, like, so right now we'll just call it medium tail risk. But if tail risk starts to rise in these markets, what we're probably going to see is the markets themselves actually going up. That's what happened pre-COVID. And we'll look at that a little bit more closely with some charts. But effectively, as the tail risk was rising going into 2020, the market pumped pretty significantly. And then the dump happened, in March, when all the bad things that shall not be mentioned came to pass. The markets dropped, they crashed, but they crashed after pumping like 10 or 15, 20%, which is, for the S&P, that's huge. Okay, so looking at the macro with a mind to the macro, let's take a look at the reverse repos, because finally something interesting happened after like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months of nothing interesting happening. So reverse repos being money that gets parked with the Federal Reserve overnight, and they get the federal funds rate minus some tiny, tiny percentage. So effectively, it's like risk-free yield that's highly liquid. So that money has been dropping for a long time. And it was the drop in the reverse repos, money coming out of the Federal Reserve, going into assets, risk assets, that I think has significantly helped to drive the bullish situation that we've seen now for, I guess that would be a year and a half at this point. So interestingly enough, the reverse repos spiked up, right? We got a pretty big spike here from, looks like 400 billion, below 400 billion, 340 billion. Now sitting at 650 billion, right? So we're looking at over $300 billion went into the Federal Reserve reverse repos. That raises an eyebrow, guys. Like that's pretty big. The markets have kind of slightly, I wouldn't say rolled over, but they are experiencing a little bit of resistance right now. The S&P 500, the Nasdaq. But yeah, this kind of spike we see it from time to time. But if this thing is sustained and continues to move towards the upside, we're going to call that rising tail risk, right? And maybe not even necessarily rising tail risk. It could just mean rising risk in general, like rising risk for being in the stock market, for being in crypto, right? Because stocks and crypto are the volatile, risky assets, right? That you want to put your money into to get the gains, but sometimes they're going to drop more than others. So we got to keep an eye on this. This happened this week, starting like pretty much as soon as the week kicked off. As soon as Monday kicked off, things started moving towards the upside there on the reverse repos. So yeah, that does raise an eyebrow. We need to keep an eye on that. That doesn't signal necessarily gains to come. So the Dixie dollar index is still just taking its sweet time. This chart still looks broadly positive to me. In a very large context, what we have here is the moving standard deviations are still rising, right? You can see that Dixie effectively found support, generally speaking, in that large upper standard deviation area, which is still sloping towards the upside, which kind of indicates a little bit of positivity there. So the Dixie is now consolidating at this level. It has been for a while. It's taking its sweet time. I still think this is the level to look for. Realistically, if we're going to get any kind of big market pullback, if we get any kind of tail risk, doesn't have to happen now, doesn't have to happen this year, could be next year. But ultimately, this wouldn't be too crazy of a place to look for. So Dixie around 110, 100, 111. I think that could happen. I think that could reasonably happen. Maybe not sooner, but perhaps later on. So currently, Dixie still mildly bullish, but really taking its sweet time. Gold actually hanging on here. So we might even be able to try and draw some sort of like different lines here on this chart and say, all right, this looks more like that. Maybe we'll try and draw this line a little bit more shallow, right? We could probably try and say something like that. It's a sideways triangle. It's a pennant, maybe. I don't know. You could also try and say the head and shoulders thesis, as we talked about, saying, maybe this is a head and shoulders situation. The target for that would be somewhere down here. Maybe. The markets really have gone up a lot, and while gold has come to the upside, I'm not convinced that it's that it's done with its like larger macro move here. But at some point, it will be time to rotate out of gold and into risk assets, but that'll probably happen after some kind of like either tail risk event or the threat of a tail risk event that sees the intervention. So yeah, okay, whatever there. Let's look at, speaking of tail risk, just really quickly. This is the bond market. The inversion here is in red. We are not seeing any massive volatility here in terms of the rates, right? We're looking for this to drop off to the downside. That will signal tail risk. The yield curve inversion to come back to the upside sharply. That's poignant, sharp tail risk kind of things that we would be looking at there. But nothing to see here today. Again, everything just kind of continuing to chug along as normal. The S&P 500 looks to be, as we talked about, this is sort of the most local but longest term sort of rising resistance at this point, which the S&P kind of hit. But there's no reason that it can't maybe consolidate and then kind of come for try to shoot to the top side of that line and try and ride to the upside. Ride to victory towards the upside. The NASDAQ, this chart is a lot dirtier than the S&P. I don't like that there's not like really solid lines here. The best one that we could draw would be this guy right there. That line is not entirely relevant at the moment. So yeah, again, in this case, we would be looking at these lines less as a definition and more as reference. They're not like the NASDAQ lines are not being like defining for us what the market is going to be doing. It's not prescriptive, right? It's more just referential. We could take a quick look here at the wave magic on these as well. Okay, the stocks, boring, boomer, whatever. Okay, but yeah, we're basically in these purple lines, which is something we have long expected to make. And ultimately, if the S&P is going to continue rising, probably the quote unquote mad gains, which for the S&P 500, mad gains constitute 31%. That is actually pretty good. Wow, 31% is actually pretty good. Yeah, so the S&P at this point is probably not going to be crazy popping past these purple lines. I wouldn't expect that. So probably most of the crazy big rebound, reaction, recovery that has happened over the past year and a half, probably most of that is behind us now. If it's going to continue going up, this is probably slow and steady kind of gains here for the S&P. The NASDAQ, I think, still has a little bit of catching up to do. In terms of its own chart, right? The NASDAQ versus the S&P, which would be this chart, is actually doing great. Like it's at all-time highs. This is a bullish chart. You've got the wave magic, upper standard deviations already curling towards the upside. But in terms of its own performance relative to its own past history, the NASDAQ here, you would still kind of expect it to eventually make those purple bands, right? So the NASDAQ would need a little bit more upside here. So to quite make those purple bands. Now, maybe it doesn't. It's just that's what it tends to do over long periods of time. The NASDAQ and the S&P just tend to ride these purple bands towards the upside. So, yeah, this chart still looks pretty good. I'm not saying that it can't pull back tomorrow. It might. I don't have any strong opinions on what the S&P and the NASDAQ do exactly immediately, but overall, the tail risk is still low. The macro is still largely on, except for this problem with the reverse repos. But the reality is that insiders can move their money. We could see the reverse repos go to the upside for a while before any like effects happen on the stock market. We could see the Dixie rise significantly, and that's what happened actually before the bear market really kicked off. In 2022, we had already seen the dollar index rise significantly going into 2022 before the bear market really kicked off. So yeah, we can see like if these trends continue and set themselves up to continue bullish, then we're going to have to get bearish, right? And we'll do that hopefully at the appropriate time. At the moment, this is just the very beginning, right? This is just eyebrow raising. This is not an indictment against the current bull market. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But overall, yeah, I would like to tell you guys that Monero is going to take off here to the upside. I think that there's a reasonably good case from the fundamentals that because of the Gox coin, some people are going to move that into Monero. I think there is a reasonably good case that we could see Monero make it up here to this area over the coming, let's just say 2 to 6 weeks. I think that could make some sense.
Wow.
Maybe 2 to 8 weeks, right? But yeah, I think the fundamentals are there. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So
not financial advice.
Financial advice, come at me, bro. No, please don't.
Oh, okay. I'll take it then.
When is the whole Mount Gox thing happening now then?
They said they were going to begin repayments in July. So that was June 24th. They said that. And then here, the repayments will be made from the beginning of July 2024. So
Wow. Yeah, I do think that will create some buying pressure for Monero. You get this, some percentage of that. Yeah, for sure. Very cool, man. Fantastic as always. Thank you, Bawdy.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah,
See you
stick
guys next week.
around. Yeah, stick around if you can, or see you next week. And we'll keep forging ahead. We got, I guess we'll do special guest next, Tux.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I think I see him in the back. The
All
Monero
right. Thanks,
Master.
Bawdy. Appreciate
Thanks,
it as
Tux.
always.
Thank you, Bawdy.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, Monero Master, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
I'm loving this shirt, man.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate. My wife actually played Monopoly as a child with her older sister, and it was only when she became an adult that she figured out why she always lost, and that was because her sister was always the banker, and unbeknownst to her, her older sister was stealing money without her knowing. That's why she never won. I thought it was quite appropriate. It's like a life lesson. It's kind of how life works.
It's the game we're playing every day, right?
Yeah, and then also I've got a background in the games industry, tabletop games, so it's a nice little crossover of my interests.
Oh, really? I think somebody made a Monero Monopoly game though at one point, right?
Really?
Yeah, I think Diego. Do you know Diego? Cypher Stack. Diego. I don't know.
Rings a bell.
Okay, yeah, he was.
Might recognize him.
He was, you know, big in the Monero community, helping out a lot in years past. Now he's moved on to building his own app and whatnot.
Okay.
But I think he created a Monero Monopoly game at one point.
Okay.
And if not, you should bring it back, man. Start selling these on XMR Bazaar. I'd buy Monero Monopoly.
Well, talking about XMR Bazaar, I just want to congratulate you and your team for getting that up. Been using it, putting the listings up there.
Cool.
It's very intuitive. It's fast. It's it's really great. So yeah, congratulations. It's something that we need in the space. And yeah, I wish it all the best. And I'm going to do my best to try and support it.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, let me know if you have any feedback, things you think we should be doing. All ears. It's definitely a work in progress. Thankfully, Anarchio, or BT Dev is what he's going by now, is, you know, he built this thing from scratch, and he's sticking around and continuing to iterate it for us, and I'm paying him monthly to do so. So hopefully he's constantly saying that he may need to leave, but he's been saying this from day one. But he's been sticking around. He's quite the character. I don't know if you've read any of the chats that we have with him. But all in all, a fantastic guy. He built Kuno, and he built Biteo, which is basically what XMR Bazaar has become. I basically had him rebuild that from scratch. It's got the Monero multisig built into it, so very excited about it. Yeah, any feedback you have, please let me know.
Well, certainly when you get a lot of listings, and it's more competitive in terms of getting your stuff in front of people, I can certainly advise in terms of how ads should be displayed. That's my bread and butter, background in digital marketing. So
yeah, for sure. Please, yeah, well, definitely. I want to do that in the right way, in a nice way. Yeah, we got to be careful with how we're gonna need to add some kind of revenue model, otherwise the thing won't be sustainable, because we don't take any fees on transactions. But I also obviously I want to do it in a way that's as respectful to the users as possible, right?
Yeah.
But creates a revenue scheme where we can continue to grow it globally, you know. So Monero Master, but though we brought you on today because I believe you're the one who started this initiative of this putting a badge on your site or wherever that you're part of the Monero, that you're taking the Monero Circular Economy Pledge. Is that correct?
Yeah, I sort of kickstarted it.
That's a great initiative. I love it.
Yeah, I think myself, like many others, when Local Monero shut down, I was like, oh no, what do we do now? There's a bit of despair. But then it really got me thinking, do we even need exchanges? And, you know, if I'm going to get Monero, I think the best way to get it is to offer a service or a product that you can receive. So I was just convinced at that point, I'm not really going to use exchanges anymore. I'm going to try and sell goods or services for Monero. And that's how I'm going to acquire Monero. I think I have enough Monero. I want to start using it and actually start building economies and not just sitting on it as like a stock or an asset. So, and I found when I was purchasing things with Monero, I felt really good. You get the sensation, like I'm fighting the system, stick it to the man, so to speak. But then sort of thinking, well, if I bought this with Monero and this individual is probably converting at least some of it into fiat in order to pay bills and things, but what if they are exchanging all of it into fiat? Then I may as well have just purchased with fiat. It kind of defeats the purpose. So I get the sensation of building an economy, but you're not really doing that. So I just reasoned and thought, it would be really great if there was, a sort of a common pledge that people could just say, I'm going to, commit to using Monero within a Monero ecosystem and trying to build this up. And then it's also a great marketing tool to build social proof. It's a way for people to stand out in the Monero economy. Hey, I'm different from everyone else because I'm willing to use the income you give me, and I'm going to put it back into the Monero ecosystem, and I'm going to try to build this up. Now, I know that not everyone can do that, and that's absolutely fine. And one way I'm doing it currently is I'm just limiting the amount of clients that I take with Monero, and that's how I can make that sustainable. So it's going to be different for everyone. I understand different industries and different businesses have different revenue streams and revenue obligations. So there's been a lot of community feedback since I sort of kicked it up. So I think it's developed in a positive way.
Can you bring it up? Share your screen. Bring up the maybe your website, just so people know what we're talking about here. The pledge banner that you created. Yeah. I mean, Sunita and I live it every day. But you want to be honest with putting up the badge, right? So I think it's you put up this badge if you're pledging to attempt to live off of Monero, right? If you're accepting Monero, you're attempting to then use that Monero to spend it somewhere else. But like you said, it is easier said than done. I think Sunita and I are in the I would think in the 1 percentile of people that actually use it quite a bit, because we run all our businesses off of it, and we're dealing it with constantly. So like we're constantly running into the the dead ends or the areas where maybe Monero isn't working for your needs. But with things like gift cards and stuff, you can get quite a bit done with Monero. Obviously, the goal here is, though, to not use gift cards, to find somebody else that's willing to natively accept it. And that's why XMR Bazaar was built in the first place. That's literally the reason why we built that. But yeah, I guess I would put this pledge up on Monerotopia conference. I mean, obviously, is every payment we make with Monero? No. It's not, but we certainly try. Most of the revenue comes in with Monero. People buying tickets. We try to get the sponsors to pay Monero. Some don't. Some pay cash. And then when we turn around and anything we're buying for the conference, obviously we try to use Monero directly. But it's a great initiative. Easier said than done. But like I was saying earlier in the show, the only way we make this happen is if we all just start doing it. So I think you summed it up well and simplified the concept. And now people just need to realize it's a matter of opting out, right? And then opting into the Monero circular economy. This doesn't happen unless we all jump into the pool, right? We got to all go in together, and then it will start to work and function.
Yeah, and I was quite surprised, to be honest, by the integrity of a lot of Monero businesses, because a lot of folks where I love this initiative, I love this idea, but this is not something I can actually build into my business, which I was surprised by, because anyone could just say they're doing this and then lie and not do it, because currently it's just like a word is my bond, right? So in response to this, we did sort of develop this out, and we created this mini pledge.
Oh, okay. Wait. Before you go to the mini pledge, just scroll up. What is the true pledge, if you want to take it here?
So you're sort of committing to three principles. So you pledge to use your gross profits, and that's key, gross, which is all your profits of your Monero sales, to purchase other products or services with Monero. You pledge not to use exchanges to convert your Monero into a fiat currency. And then you pledge to also seek out other businesses that have adopted this pledge. So those are the three, trying to keep it super simple.
Yeah, so I'm thinking for myself, right? So we, like I said, most of our revenue is in Monero. We never exchange Monero into fiat. But what we do is we use our own fiat to cover our costs, right? And it's kind of a way for me to continue to acquire Monero. So I'll invest money, my own personal money will go into the business in form of cash to pay bills rather than selling Monero. So we I don't think we really ever do that. What we do is seek people that are willing to accept Monero and use it in that way, or maybe send them Monero and then they transfer it to another crypto or something, right? If they wanted Dogecoin, we'll use Monero and maybe insta swap it into Doge. So yeah, that's a hard pledge. So what can I put up the Monero circular economy pledge on Monerotopia and Monero Nodo and I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I truly am living up to this pledge. I don't know if anybody can truly live up to this pledge, my man, right? Like, because you're saying, so the only way I could use that Monero is if I turn around and, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pretty close.
I think you are pretty much doing that, because
yeah.
what I'm doing is as a marketer, I have my sort of normie fiat business, and then this works really well for contractors or consultants, because you can say, well, I'll take on 2 clients and it's pocket change. I don't need it to pay my expenses. I pay all my expenses, my electricity, my internet, my computer hardware. That's all being paid through my fiat side of my fiat business. And then anything I make with Monero, it's basically profits, and I'm just going to keep that within a Monero system. So that's how.
All right, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Yeah, so I think I am the Monero. Yeah, I'm there. Yeah. All our Monero stays as Monero, and then we seek to use it as Monero, or directly. Yeah.
So so it's the gross profits of your Monero sales. So it's not your entire sales.
Right. Okay.
And then the mini pledge, which sort of separates itself out from this, if I have to go to this, it is exactly the same. And I've sort of highlighted the key differences, but this is net profits. So this means that if you make a Monero sale, you can transfer a portion of the profits of that sale to fiat in order to pay your expenses. And then any sort of net profit, which is after you account your expenses, you try to keep that at best of your ability in the Monero ecosystem. So it's sort of inspired by the P2 pool. A side chain, you have the main chain, which is for heavier computers, and then if you've got a smaller system with a smaller hash rate, you use the mini chain. And this is the same concept, where people who agree with the spirit of this pledge, they can adopt this mini pledge, and then they can put that on their business with the intention of eventually going to that full pledge once their business scales.
No, I'm definitely the full pledge. Yeah, because we're never trading Monero or selling Monero. We're only using it for purchasing other things. And that's basically what it comes down. That is the way, guys. This is where we need to get. If enough of us are doing this along these lines, it will work.
And there's a download link here, and I intentionally included the Illustrator file, so you can tweak it yourself. If you need to put it in a different language, you can. And if you're mostly dealing with Spanish clients or customers, then you can just change the language and customize it as we say. Monero is permissionless, so trying to make this as permissionless as possible. Just give people all the tools to do what they will with it.
Fantastic, man. I'll add it to Monerotopia.com, the conference website, and I'll add it to Gratuitous. Same thing there. Any expenses we pay, we use fiat that we already have. We're not selling Monero for those purposes, or we're using it directly. So that's cool. Yeah. Are you seeing other people? Are you seeing good uptake with this? Yeah.
Well, where do we have here go back to the original? Yeah, here. I started listing some here. There's probably more. There's some I could catch.
Okay.
The folks you've putting on. Real shout out to Untraceable on Twitter. He really did a great job of sort of spreading the word and getting a lot of kind of tagging individual businesses saying you should do this, and then a lot of them were then adopting it. So I don't know if I'll be able to continue to do this.
Yeah, you'll have a whole long list.
Yeah. So this will probably change.
You could add Monero. You could add Monerotopia.com and Gratuitous if you can.
Okay, I'll do
Because
that.
we'll definitely we've been legitimate Monero circular economy businesses for a long time. Dutch Cheese Boy, I see him on there. That's who I bought my cheese off
Yeah,
of
yeah.
on XMR Bazaar.
So if we
That's
go here,
fantastic.
I think he actually has. He's put it here. Yeah.
Oh,
Put it
fantastic.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
hope to see a lot of these popping up on XMR Bazaar vendors posts. This is great, man. I love it.
Oh, let me just switch this. Got a lot of tabs here open. Now, one thing I also maybe we could jump into this is I wrote an article on tips on how to improve your Monero market listings. This might be worth jumping into. My background's in marketing, so I obviously deal with large amounts of ad spend, and you get a lot of information from that. So you can compile sort of good practices. We call them hygiene factors, where let's say you're to go on a date. If you don't brush your teeth, it doesn't guarantee the next date, but it certainly will harm your chances of getting that next date. So I think there's best practices in terms of just putting your listings on various marketplaces, obviously XMR Bazaar being included in this. So I can quickly go down through this if you think it might be useful.
Yeah,
so
please.
I think one of the key things to start off with is understanding the buying mentality of Monero. You have to understand your customer. And we have to recognize that it's harder to earn and spend Monero than it is regular fiat. So the convenience side of things is sort of on the fiat side. In certain circumstances, I will say I actually think international payments are easier with Monero. In fact, I recently had an opportunity to get my mother-in-law into Monero because they live in a different country, so we went to see them, and we weren't carrying cash. We wanted to pay for a takeaway, and the certain takeaway only accepted cash. And so I said, okay, well, they had cash in the house. We'll pay you via bank transfer. And on the thought of setting up, getting all the details and, opening up my bank app and authenticating it and sending, processing all that information just to buy a takeaway. I jokingly said, I'll give you cryptocurrency if you like. And she perked up. She's like, sure. And I then set up her wallet. I wrote down the seed for her, told her how important it was, and then sent her Monero. And so she was delighted. And it took 5 minutes to do. And it was so much easier than an international bank transfer. But that aside, there's some circumstances where Monero is easier, but generally,
yeah, no, we've come across it all the time. We have to do wire transfers sometimes for like gratuitous, like out of a pure need. We're like, please just accept Monero. Like it is such a pain in the ass to use the traditional banking system for sending a payment, and you get totally robbed. It's like $40 in fees to send whatever amount. It's insane. The whole wire transfer.
If you're sending, I don't know, pounds to dollars, and they're exchanging it at some terrible rate and robbing you there as well. So.
Yeah. And then when you show them Monero, like sometimes I just get people like, just do a test, just download. I'll just send you some for free anyway, just so you could see, compared to sending a bank transfer, and they get it within seconds, right? And no fee. It's just like, oh, wow,
yeah,
unbelievable.
So yeah, understanding the buyer mentality of folks people who are going to XMR Bazaar, I think they're going to be asking three fundamental questions: is this something I need? Is the deal or discount offered worth the effort it was for me to acquire Monero? Like, is this such a good deal that I just have to just buy this with Monero, because buying it with fiat is like I'm just leaving money on the table? And then, is this something that aligns with my philanthropic or philosophical principles? So I think the Monero space is filled with people from all various backgrounds, all different belief systems, but there's a commonality in our fervor for a hatred of the fiat system. And I think that's one thing that actually unites the group. We all want better money. We don't like bad money. So that's something that you can lean into with, and this, I think the Monero Circular Economy Pledge was as part of this issue that we're seeking to address. That look, I'm committed to building an economy that uses better money. And then,
yeah, I mean, even the just to push back a little bit, is it something I need? Obviously, is the deal discount offered worth the effort to acquire my Monero? Like, I don't think everything needs to be a better deal per se, right? If I could buy my pasteurized eggs with Monero directly, I'll pay $1 more to use Monero for that, knowing it's going direct to the freaking guy. No banks were involved. Nobody's taking your percentage of our transaction, and we're doing it in a way that can't be stopped. Where it's like being at a farmer's market. I'm putting money in this guy's pocket. He's putting eggs in my car. Like I'll pay a premium for that as a Monero user, right? So how do you right? I mean, what is that kind, right? I think there's a lot of us that just want to live off of Monero for cash purposes, because you're benefiting as a buyer by using quote unquote digital cash, and you're benefiting as a seller as well, right? Because you don't have any corporations that this is going through, so they're not taking any fees, and also the government isn't watching every transaction you do, and then you turn around and you pay your taxes appropriately, but it's not happening in a way where we're all being surveilled. There's a lot of benefit in like using cash, right? Like that's why people like using cash at restaurants or things like that. So, or using cash to pay your gardener, or using cash, right? There is a real need for that, and it's not necessarily that you pay less, but you get value out of just being able to do that. What do you think?
Well, I think that this is an important topic, and it might even deal with the kind of differences of opinion in terms of privacy and anonymity for businesses. I listened to a lot of the MoneroCon talks recently. A lot of them were great. And one term I constantly heard being brought up is that we need anonymity. More people need to embrace anonymity. The reason why is we need plausible deniability should there be some type of issue. My main concern with that is that totalitarian regimes don't care about plausible deniability, right? Totalitarian regimes will, at a drop of a hat, throw you and your family in the gulag if they want to. If they need a road built, that's how the gulags operated. So I think there's certain circumstances, absolutely, anonymity is necessary, is needed. But I think in some context, it's actually deleterious, and business is one of those things. You gave an example of like your local egg farmer. You probably have a pretty good relationship with them. You're probably talking to that person on a first name basis. You know that when you support this person, you're putting money into like a family farm or something. So if that person was anonymous, you wouldn't really have that connection, a human connection. So I think when you talk about,
but they don't need to be. Maybe I'm missing it. But if I'm buying my eggs on XMR Bazaar from somebody, it doesn't have to be anonymous. They could be, it could be whoever. It could be you.
Yes, that's my point.
You got into, yeah, okay.
My point is that there's some type of human connection that you have, so you're willing to pay more because you're supporting the Monero economy and you're supporting that individual. You probably wouldn't have that same attitude buying McDonald's with Monero, right? You're probably not going to overpay because that's a corporation and you don't really care about that corporation, but you care about the individual and their small business. Exactly. So yeah, I think that's great. If people want to overspend, like you can always do that. I think the terms of the discount is, especially when you're starting off, you don't have reviews on XMR Bazaar. Nobody knows you. You kind of want to give as much incentive to purchase with you as possible. And to be honest, because the transaction fees are so much smaller on Monero than traditional banking, that everyone can give at least 2%, 5% discount, so that you can just put that money back into your customer's hands as a gift. So I think that's really kind of the overarching emphasis I was thinking of when addressing these kind of three principles.
Awesome.
So then going on from there, your listing kind of needs to do four things. It needs to clearly outline what your product or service is. And we see this in advertising all the time. The ones that do the best, they aren't clever or amazing. They are very simple, usually too simple, like ironically simple, where you just need to very clearly outline what this is. And essentially you're trying to generate a yes or no response. Like, I'm interested, I'm not interested. And that's really what you're trying to do. You need to quickly detail how it benefits your potential customer. So this is really coming into things like solution selling. What solution are you actually going to provide for your customer? And then give a compelling reason to pay with Monero instead of fiat. And this, I suppose, this comes back to these kind of philanthropic principles. I'm going to use the Monero Circular Economy Pledge. I'm going to use this in this economy. I'm going to build up the economy. So I'm giving you a reason to purchase with me using Monero. And yeah, I think just demonstrate that you support the Monero Circular Economy. It probably feeds into number 3, all there together.
Awesome, man.
So yeah, the first question, and this really comes to the listing. You need to start from like people who go to XMR Bazaar. What is the first thing that they are doing? Well, whenever they're on their however they're looking at this and they're flicking, would you have any information in terms of what devices people are viewing the site on? Is it mostly mobile, mostly desktop? I imagine it's mostly mobile.
I don't have information on that, but I imagine it's mostly mobile.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I built it, designed it with mobile in mind. Like that was a big part, making sure Anarchio made a good mobile version of it for sure.
So that's important. If you're making your listing, you might be doing it on a desktop, but you want to check out the experience on a mobile device and make sure that everything's legible, your pictures are clear and whatnot. But the first thing you're doing, this is essentially your advertisement, by the way. Your listing, that you have an opportunity here to get a click, which is what an ad does. So right. The key here is your headline and your display image. And this is basically your ad image and your ad text. So my recommendation is to define what it is. So here's my listing. I've got this up. So it's professional email marketing. It's 3 words. It's intentional because there's like no ambiguity there. So if you want email marketing, there it is. I'm even using MailChimp.
I saw that one and it was attractive. I was like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and if you needed email marketing, you might be tempted to click it. And I even use MailChimp intentionally, even though I wouldn't use MailChimp with cryptocurrency projects because MailChimp doesn't take cryptocurrency projects. But MailChimp has so much sort of brand dominance within the email marketing space that I chose that one intentionally as an example. And so as you can see, some of these just need images, you know. What you don't want to do is get to this triple dot. So here's I would probably recommend that this user would try shorten this down and make it. And there's been a lot of studies that because in terms of email marketing, that people read 6 words. You know, they read the first 3 words and then they read the last 3 words. So if you have a sentence that's 6 words, you've got a pretty clear sentence. So I'd recommend trying to keep something that's about 6 words.
Do you think we need little? Because I think it was part of our original design, and somebody brought it up, like little descriptions within under the post, right? So in addition to the title, like maybe the first 20 words of the description.
Well, one thing I like is it's quite clean, and I think that's important because you know.
Bring it up just for a second, and I think this is a great write-up you're doing, by the way. We should somehow promote this on XMR Bazaar so people that are like, you know, when they log in for the first time, they read this, because I'm seeing a lot of people that are just like, come on, you're going through the effort of creating a profile, an account, like just take it all the way. Make your listing enticing. Like so many people aren't putting up photos. Like you said, we were even talking of generating like auto photos to fill, but I don't want to do that. Like I'd rather properly educate the users and get them to put up photos, because it makes it so much, you know, whatever.
Make it a requirement.
Yeah, make it a requirement. Like even this one, PHP developer needed to modify. You know, I don't know. What would you put up in that instance? That's a good, you know.
For the PHP developer.
Yeah.
Modify my CMS. This is a request, isn't it? So this isn't a.
Yeah. This is this guy's looking to hire a PHP developer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe it's a slightly different when you're requesting services rather than trying to sell.
Yeah.
One thing, it would be handy if there was a sort of a standard image size that a lot of people could. Because I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what the sort of optimized image size. I uploaded a couple images and I sort of was operating in squares because squares tend to work better on mobile devices.
We got to work on the images, yeah, for sure.
Go
ahead.
So in the article I wrote, I do have a section on image sizing here.
Okay.
So there.
Yeah, I'll let me bring that back up. But just to ask the question, yeah, what do you think in terms of the idea of maybe putting more text in the post itself? So Ukrainian flag, spend $15, and then like you would see the first line or two of the description. You know, so you would begin to see this. This is the flag of Ukraine. This listing does not reflect the views of the publisher. Seeing that in the list on the front page itself. So like under here or something.
Yeah, my gut feeling says it's probably fine the way that it is, because it's right now there's a lot of different products on different things. It's not like someone's looking at a category. So they're typing in beer and they have all these different beer products that they're looking at. Right now, it's kind of like a mixed bag of everything. So you probably want to just keep it as clean as possible.
Okay.
So, and right now there's I love all the stuff at the bottom. That's all social proof. Like you have these upvotes, you've got the number of reviews. That's really going to help when people actually start engaging with the site. So for now, I'd probably just want to keep it as clean as possible because it's such a mixed bag of different stuff. But if it comes to a point where there's so many listings of the same product and you really do need that little bit of text to kind of help people stand out, then that might be worthwhile at that point. When it comes to digital marketing and e-commerce, it's all about A/B testing. So if there's a way for you to sort of work out the click-through rates or the overall click-through rates of listings that have that and then don't have that, that would be a real great way to sort of, kind of scientifically work out if having that little text actually is a performance booster.
Okay.
So yeah,
test it.
Yeah. So in terms of this actual display image, you can see that this kind of fits within here nicely. It's not cropped out like this. And this was intentional. So I have the square image, and I kind of worked out that if you have something, you can download this. You can just right-click and save this and use it as a template. So I think I realized that the top 150 pixels, it kind of cuts off. So this is, but I'm not sure if this actually works on mobile. I think if you look on this on mobile, kind of, because I did this on desktop and I wasn't thinking about mobile at the time. So I'll have to go back and just do some experiments with mobile. And so I can put both templates up. So you can download this, and this will at least work for mobile. So if this is kind of like your glory area, you want your kind of key components here.
Beautiful. By the way, before I forget the thought, you might want to put up a listing for consulting services where you'll give people, for whatever, $5 worth of Monero, you'll give them some quick feedback on their listing on how to quickly improve it. I think you do quite well.
Yeah, certainly could. Be more than happy. I work a lot with crowdfunding projects, so I'm actually interested to maybe talk about Kuno at one point. So we do a lot of consultation in terms of optimizing Kickstarter pages for people. So that's in a lot of ways, a lot of similar principles are kind of in all of this.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is a template. I'll do one on mobile as well. I'll update this article and make sure that I've tested it on mobile. So this is really important, that display image, that it's not cropped out. It's very clear. I would not recommend putting text on display images. This is something that actually you can't even do with Google or Facebook. They can even reject your ads because it's sort of just so demonstrably shown that putting text on your images, especially for listings or ads, doesn't improve results. In fact, we often find that it can decrease results because they look too salesy. They look too much like advertisements, and that's sort of important. Yeah, then I suppose the next thing, that's if you master your headline and that image, then you've got the click, right? And that's the key. That's the only thing that those two things are trying to do is get a click, right? So you don't want clickbait.
Get them in the door. Yeah, you
want something that's accurate. So when they click, they're engaged. The next thing is they're going to be reading your text. They're going to be looking at your images, and they're going to be reading at your text. Actually, I was actually experimenting at one stage. If I can go to my listings here quickly, I got one up of a headset that I'm just trying to sell. So this was me just experimenting with like different size images, but I tried with this image. So as you can see here, I was trying to get like a perfect, I need to come back and do this, but I kind of split the image in half, where instead of just having, one, because you're obviously limited by 5, and I'm going to use the last image to kind of show that I'm taking the circular economy pledge. So I'm sort of downed an image slot. So I figured that if I just, because you can upload images that are quite large, if I just split the images or even make like a grid. So that might be a way if you want to include more than 4 or 5 images, you just have like your first image, and then your second image would be a grid of different views. So I could just put all the variations of the size of this headset just in one image, and then I'm freed up some of my other images, or I'm just communicating faster in terms of those things. So the next thing you want to try to do is optimize all these different images. And depending on what you're selling, you kind of want to tell a story. That's what I would recommend. So like your beginning, middle, and end. So I intentionally chose this angle because it's very obvious that this is the Oculus headset. And it's also intriguing because it's a little bit obscured. So that's the other thing that you want to do. If it isn't clear, the next kind of area you want to optimize is intrigue. So you want to make it clear, but then you also want to build intrigue. So this is why I kind of got like this dark lighting. I actually need to upload images which doesn't have such dramatic lighting, just so that people can actually see it like in normal daylight. But I intentionally use this dramatic lighting to build intrigue. And then you want to sort of tell the story here. as well. So that's the next area
I
of
love that
optimization.
you're. This is a great listing, by the way. Has anybody hit you up on it, made an offer or no?
No, I didn't think so.
Hmm.
But it comes with Half-Life Alyx, so I'm giving you my Steam account as well because I only got it to
Okay.
play Half-Life Alyx, and I finished the
The
game.
only thing, yeah, the Monero crowd. I don't know. There might be right anti-Facebook, anti-Meta. So you
Sure,
might,
yeah.
but
No, I completely
I'm
understand that.
interested. I know my daughter would like one of the. Is this? I don't know a lot about the Meta. This is obviously not the latest version. There's later versions or no?
Yeah, they recently brought out like I think a third one. So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's in terms of meta, you have to have a meta account, but just you can create a new one and just don't use it, you know. But you just need it to. Also, kind of creepy that my because how this works is that you run like Half-Life Alyx on your desktop, and then you use another app that you have to buy. I think it's about £10. It's not too expensive, called Virtual Desktop, and it kind of connects your desktop to your headset. But my desktop blew up. I got a power surge. So my computer was dead for a while. I couldn't finish the game. It was a bit frustrating. And I just put the headset on the shelf. And I never put the headset on the shelf without charging it. So I know that when I put it on the shelf, it was at least charged. But when I eventually fixed my computer a couple of weeks later, turned this back on, the headset was completely dead. So that means that even though I had it off, it somehow was using battery and it was still on, essentially. So which is super creepy.
That is a little creepy. You can never
so
turn it off.
I always kind of kept it like in a cupboard closed. So hopefully but I'm sure it's spying on you. So you want to be careful with meta. I think
this is why you're selling it. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna get too many takers in the Monero community.
Yeah. I'm really selling this headset to you. Well, you could give it to I don't know, a loved one as a gift to like. He maybe not too concerned with the privacy. So yeah, the images is the next element, and then it's your description. Now I actually got my wife to help me with this description because I don't know if you have it in the States. There's a sort of secondhand e-commerce store called Vinted, and I was almost tempted to like go into my DNS on the router, like just block the DNS of this website because she uses it all the time. But she's sort of a pro at like, and she helped me. She actually consulted me on how to add this text. So one thing she told me to mention is like, from a pet-free and smoke-free home, which I thought was, I would have never thought to add that. And she said, oh yeah, that's something that they put on Vinted so that, you know your products don't smell of smoke or they don't have, cat hair on there or something. So that might be worth mentioning. And again,
dude, you're adding so much value to XMR Bazaar, man. Loving this. I'm loving all this thought you put into this. Keep going.
Yeah, and then I suppose the next description is you want to keep it short and sweet and very accurate in terms of, hey, this is what you want. As you can see, I'm also putting there's not a paragraph of text. I very intentionally put a sentence on each line. Just makes it just easier to read. So I recommend doing that as well. So this is literally what it is. It's the Quest 2 with the Elite strap, and then the next part it's excellent use condition. I factory reset it and has its original packaging, and it also includes these 2 games on Steam. A bit of a disclaimer here: you do need a meta account. You need Virtual Desktop to play the games, and then some extra details. I do know when I first tried to put stuff on Monero, on XMR Bazaar, I couldn't use emojis. I don't know if that's being changed, but that'd be a really great feature because you kind of put you could put little emojis just to kind of make those pop. And this is where I recommend putting emojis. Like even here, I'd remove these kind of dashes with like the check mark, the green check mark. And yeah, then I have the Monero Circular Economy pledge down here. So
yeah, you could, if you don't mind, are you in the group Telegram chat?
No.
Or not the Telegram, we have a chat. Tux could give you the link. You should definitely be in there. The Matrix chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have I am set up on Matrix. I just need to join the channel. I can do it.
Yep, I got you.
We'll throw the link in the chat here for anybody else that wants to join.
And then finally, because now you've got the images, you've got your description. Then if you keep on scrolling, the next thing they see is your user profile. So this is actually part of your listing, and maybe people haven't even thought about that.
Right.
So this is where I basically have social proof here. I just, like I'm very glad I'm running a local node. I'm actually running 2 local nodes because I run a full one on my desktop and on my laptop. Probably should put that in. I'm currently mining. I was even thinking of putting like my P2 pool observer link in there, so like you can actually demonstrate. Look, you can actually look at the shares I just mined. So you might want to put that in there. Look, I'm Monero Circular Economy Pledge adopter, and then it's kind of like I've got some more social proof. I've been featured on some Monero articles here, and then there's just a little bit about my intention with my business, and then a link to my website.
You are using XMR Bazaar the way we intended, envisioned people would use it. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. I do think offering people consulting on it, or maybe just hitting them up individually, like, hey, I offer consulting on listings if you want.
Yeah, well,
people can definitely use some help.
I could certainly add that here. I did put like meta and like email. See here, it's kind of cut off, but this is a strange display of my screen right now.
You got me thinking too, for like paid accounts, things we could offer, right? So maybe you could post a video clip. So in addition to photos, right? If you have a paid account or a pro account, whatever you want to call it, now in addition to, maybe it lets you add more photos, or it lets you add a short video clip, right? If you had a short video clip of that meta, right, that would obviously be a lot more attractive to a buyer than just seeing some still photos. Another thought too is like analytics, right? Maybe eventually we offer users analytics so they could see how their listings are doing, and things they may want to improve. They could see how many click-throughs they're getting, things like that.
Yeah, well, I think where you could certainly make income, because there's going to come a stage, hopefully, that there'll be so many listings that if you made a new listing, it's just going to be lost in the sea of the oblivion of all the listings. So it's going to be. So you actually do need some type of algorithm that can help people find stuff. So I think what you could do is that maybe people could pay in order to kind of increase the amount of tags for searchers, or to even put their product on a specific category. So that might be a way to do it. So if you have a free listing, it's just it's this open market and anyone can find it, but also means that no one can find it. But in order to actually kind of have a bit more nuance in your listing, you can pay to do that. Another thing,
a promoted listing, but in a more intelligent way than just throwing it on the front page, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and to be honest, there's a difference of philosophy between like Google and Meta, for example, when it comes to display advertising. And for all I completely hate Facebook. I'm not a Facebook maxi or anything. But one thing I will say is that Facebook has really mastered the art of display advertising. They're the leaders in it. They have done a fantastic job by putting the right ads in front of the right people at the right time. Whilst the Google model is completely different. The Google model for display advertising is basically to pay for the privilege to annoy users. So they pay for upgraded features to block ads, which is horrible for the advertiser. But this is why I don't really like the idea of just blindly boosting ads, because an increase of impressions doesn't necessarily mean an increase in click-through. In fact, you could even annoy people with your listing if they're seeing it all the time, if they're not interested. So you actually do need targeting. You do need a bit of tracking, unfortunately, to make this work. So I know that a lot of people in the Monero community might not like to hear that, but I do think that if there's a way to sort of do tracking that's anonymous, that doesn't expose people's information, but I think there's a balance here, which I think could be potentially met. I think another thing that you could do in terms of monetizing this website is that if there was a way for the Monero Circular Economy Pledge or something of the equivalent, like a checkbox, that meant that if people paid in Monero, it's basically custodial, right? So that it stays within the website, but then you can buy other things within the website. That might just make it easier in terms of you have the option to just keep everything on the website, almost like a balance that you can then buy other stuff on the website. And then you take the cut of the transaction.
That would be tricky for us, only because the law, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to not be labeled a money transmitter in any way, and take a different approach. And then that also makes it very competitive in terms of never taking any fees on the transactions themselves. So that's the current thinking strategy, right? Makes us more competitive and pure. Here we are. We're just a platform where you guys can make it into whatever you want. The more you use it, the better. And we're not taking a fee off of how you guys use it. And then more importantly, we're not getting into the business of being a money transmitter. So that might be a hard feature to add without getting into that realm, right? Because at that point, you're saying you're literally being custodial. You're holding
Yeah.
the Monero fort, right? Yeah.
And then you could even argue,
Yeah.
perhaps you're publishing even, so
Right.
yeah,
right,
no,
right.
that makes sense. It was one thing I was.
It is a good idea,
thinking
though,
about.
for sure. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So,
Awesome,
yeah.
man. I love all the thought you put into this, and you're obviously a professional in this area, so I greatly appreciate that you contributed in this way, man. Little things like this, you don't realize, right? You're in a small way, you're adding value to what we're doing here. A lot of people are doing that. So many people are engaging with us in that Matrix chat. I'll put it up here. And it's so helpful, guys, that like if you want to help this effort in any way, just start using it, create a profile, and give us your feedback. It's tremendous help just doing that. So thank you, man. I greatly appreciate your detailed feedback and thoughts on how people can better use Monero marketplaces. Very awesome, man. What do you? Obviously, you're driven by this. Like I assume, like myself, out of a pure passion for the project. You believe in Monero. You're trying to help make it successful. Are you working? Are you trying to think of how you could start making money in the Monero community yourself? Like things. Do you have business ideas for Monero that you're working on, or anything you want to put out there?
Yeah. Well, originally I sort of just started Monero Master as a way to actually encourage local businesses here in the UK to adopt Monero. I figured if there's going to be any type of Monero economy, then small businesses need to adopt Monero, and they're going to need a touch point. They're going to need somebody who can hold their hand and get their wallet set up and answer their questions and address their issues. And then my hope was to eventually then build up a Monero business networking system. So almost like BNI, if you're familiar with that system, but for Monero. So Monero entrepreneurs would meet together, network, and help each other, consult, and so on and so forth. So that's sort of the kind of broad goal I had. But then I figured, like, if I'm going to be helping people run a Monero business, then I need to be accepting Monero for my business. So that then led to me offering my own skills in terms of marketing. So I have listed those on XMR Bazaar. But then also I was doing some stuff with steganography, because that was just a hobby of mine, hiding your seed in audio files and hiding them in image files and things, and then using a little bit of manual encryption, which isn't by any means foolproof, but it's better than nothing. And it's a way to encrypt your seed without a computer or the internet connection, which was quite attractive to me.
I'm sorry, wait, I just missed that. That was your project that you were working on?
Yes, yeah, that's how I sort of started by
oh, okay.
that.
That was, I love that idea. That was really cool. You want to bring that up, show that?
Yeah, I haven't put it up on XMR Bazaar yet. I do have it on Monero Marketplace. But yeah, essentially the idea is that if you want to have a backup of your seed, then in a way that's digitized, and my idea is trying to do this as securely as possible, because I don't really like the idea of having one point of contention. I think I actually have an article on moneromaster.com, my Substack, that outlines how to encrypt your seed using a Virginia cipher, which is it was a cipher that was it wasn't cracked for 300 years. So for a long time, it was a great way to encrypt things. It can now be demolished by brute force and computer analysis. So I wouldn't recommend it as a foolproof encryption method. But in terms of stopping someone from just looking at your seed and seeing it in plain text, it's better than nothing. But then the idea was to combine this with some type of steganography, which is how to conceal things in plain sight. So I was doing this digitally. So I was using, it's known as additive image synthesis. So within the audio spectrum, you have harmonics. What additive image synthesizer does is that it actually creates the harmonics within the sound waves, whilst most synthesizers subtract harmonics. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to embed images or messages within the actual audio spectrum of songs. So you could, using your encrypted seed, you could bake your seed in an image file, and no one would really know. It'll be a bit of an audio defect, but you could have it on your computer, and it's immune to word searches because it's actually baked in the physical spectrum of the harmonics of the audio wave of the song. And then another thing I was also thinking of, SSTV, which is slow scan television. So you could develop a an SSTV signal, and it kind of just sounds like gibberish. But then you can use that, you can get a transcoder and you can transcode an image from that audio file. So that's another way you could back up your sort of image file. And the cool thing about that method is that you can actually communicate that through radio if you wanted to. So if you're in a bind, you know, and you needed, and I've done that. So you could communicate, you can just put it off a speaker and get the transcoder, or you just have on your phone the audio file, and then you just have a transcoder on your laptop picking it up on the mic, and it's so you're kind of reducing the signal. It's just coming through your microphone. It's not coming through the internet or something. So
and so you wrote up a blog post like kind of teaching people how to do that, or
yeah, I can send you a link here. Get it up here.
now I thought I saw another post recently, but maybe it was yours, but it was this, I don't know, yeah, just this concept of kind of hiding the keys in files.
Yes, yeah. So that's just a very basic way to hide it in like an image file.
Right.
Again, none of these things are foolproof. I don't know if I can throw this in the chat, but I don't know if that there is. But if you go to moneromaster.com, it's how to encrypt your Monero seed without the internet or a computer. And I think that's quite attractive, being able to do this without any type of third party. There's obviously better encryption methods, but one thing I don't like about them is that you're always somewhat dependent on a third party. So being able to like encrypt your seed without the need of internet, I think is pretty important, and also be able to decrypt it. And I have a PDF download where you can download essentially a template that allows you to use a Visioneer cipher to encrypt your seed. So this might be worth doing even if you don't plan to use steganography, just in terms of storing it in your house, because I actually wrote this in response to the UK passing a law where they could, the police can confiscate your seeds without an arrest, which is like, well, that's kind of scary. Well, if they can do that, I'd rather have some type of encryption to not make it easy for them. So yeah, this is the idea behind this, and this is how the cipher works. It's called a polyalphabetic cipher. So you're using 2 alphabets to sort of with a passphrase to. So here's your keyword. It's just passphrase. It's XMR, XMR, XMR. You just repeat it, and then your plain text would be your seed, and then your ciphertext would be this jumbled up. So I do have a download. You can download a PDF, and it kind of outlines how to do this step by step, and this article outlines it too. So if people want to just have a little bit of redundancy in terms of securing their seed, then this is a great free way of doing that.
I love it, man. I love it. I love your website too. Looks great.
Yeah, it's just a Substack. So my principle is actually a principle I take from cybernetics in terms of feedback, where you always want to, I think it's important when growing businesses, you grow with results and you test. So you want to iterate quickly. So I'll start off with, encrypting people's seeds and see how people think about that. Or people don't like that idea. And then you just constantly adjusting. And what Substack allowed me to do was make those changes quickly without a lot of investment in terms of money and time. Everything's kind of built into one. But I know some people have criticized using Substack because it uses Cloudflare and it's subject to man-in-the-middle attacks, and it's not exactly the most private way of running a website. But for the time being, it's convenient. And at one stage, I'll probably will move to full self-hosting and having things a bit more locked down.
Fantastic. I'm just looking at the comments here. They're talking about the wallet. Unknown is saying, please look up the new business listings on XMR Bazaar. Hold on, let me. Saying it's booming. All right, let me pull it up. I haven't actually checked it out in a while. The business listings part. Let me bring that up. I love this this Monero flag, by the way. Don't spy on me. I'm loving that. How big is this? 3 sizes, 18 inches by 12. I might get one of these. I'm wearing the shirt. This is my favorite Monero shirt. Is the Gladstein flag, the Don't Spy on Me. I love it. It's actually for the Mallorca Bitcoin blockchain conference, and I know those guys from MoneroCon. Great guys, awesome guys, and I love their shirt. But let's see, wait, the listings, business listings. Oh yeah, we got a bunch up, a bunch of listings. Let's say 100 per page. Yeah, there's some of the PorkFest ones. Yeah, we got people. All right, we got people putting up the business listings. Fantastic. Fantastic. And then there's the map. Where's the link to the map actually? View map. Yeah, I don't know how well the map is working out right now because not everybody is putting in the proper formatting for it. What do we have here? Oh, this is my listing. That's my car. Mexico. What do we got going on down here? Okay, that's people selling a SIM card. All right, so it's not. Oh, because it's all listings. Oh, okay. I'm learning things with XMR Bazaar every day myself, so that you can view the map by listings or just business listings. Very cool, man. Yeah, guys, just keep adding them. Keep adding them. Thank you so much, man. Greatly appreciate you doing all this. Like I said, anything else you want to get out there? Anything you want to shill? Please do so. Now's the time.
Yeah, I suppose encouragement for people to use Monero as a as it was intended, as a currency. It's called cryptocurrency. It's not called crypto stock. I think Roger Ver in his book Hijacking Bitcoin has sort of shown the defects of Bitcoin, and I think one question we all need to ask ourselves is, can that happen to Monero? And the only way that we can sort of ensure that that doesn't happen is by people being involved and implementing solutions and with their particular skill set. So I think there's a lot to learn from that book. I'd highly recommend anyone read it. And yeah, I have a conviction, a strong conviction to use Monero because I see it as a useful tool in fighting the coming technocratic surveillance state that we're sort of being engulfed in. And I just see it as the opposing force, right? Because as we see society move towards a unjust global surveillance state, well, the opposing force logically is just personal privacy. Those are the three kind of opposites of that system. And I think Monero fits nicely within that as a tool to resist this coming. So in one way, it's a bit strange because I kind of wear two hats, where this, one side of me is really into being able to track results for advertising campaigns. And there's another part of me that really wants to ensure that there is privacy on the internet and that people do as much as they can to be anonymous. And like right now, I'm in the process of switching from Windows to Pure OS. So that's sort of my transition lately. Personally, even in a work environment, I just want to get off Windows, knowing what's coming down the line with Windows 11. And the party is as bad as I think it is, anyway.
Yeah. That is interesting. So, given that your day job is basically in surveillance, right? I mean, it's using people's data to give them the ads that they want to see. So you see firsthand the power of that, right?
Well,
so
to a degree, right? Because I only have access to what Meta and Google allow me to see. So I'm sure they have even greater control.
Of course.
And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people, and this is a convenient excuse for these big tech companies to blame marketers. When marketers aren't the people that are trying to steal your data and use it maliciously, all they're trying to do is actually serve you. Yeah, they want to put things that you actually want in front of you so that you will actually take action on it. They're trying to help you. They're not trying to. And I suppose there's marketers of various moral degrees, and some may not care about that. But I think it's a convenient excuse for big tech to say, "Oh yeah, we're doing this because of the marketers," when really it's not. I think it's important to know what these social media sites are, and then to use them appropriately. So, for example, I have a Meta account, but I only use it for business. I don't talk to my family on that. I intentionally don't have any family in my friends list or interact with any family on it. I literally only use it for business and use it within certain niche groups that help me stay on top of kind of trends within the industry that I'm in. So it's very controlled in that sense. And I only upload the least amount of information necessary to use it. And I think that's maybe a good philosophy to have. And but at the end of the day, we need better alternatives, right? So if someone's listening who has the skill set to build a social media site that can optimize tracking in a way that doesn't compromise people's data, then there might be something that's worth looking into. Certainly, because for all the negative things of Meta and Facebook and Google, small businesses are somewhat dependent on them. Like I'm currently helping a friend, and he's got a small business selling mattresses, and he's able to spend $2 or £2 a day on Meta ads and actually make sales. And that's pretty phenomenal if you're a small business, and to actually spend such a small amount and actually generate sales doing that, which is, I think there's a lot to be said about that. That's a very useful tool. It's unfortunate that it has a more nefarious side, as we all know. And I think most people are maybe willfully ignorant, or just they are completely ignorant of the origins of Facebook and Meta and its history, especially with US intelligence and LifeLog. That's really where it came out of, the LifeLog project of the US military. And using it under that assumption, we saw this with Twitter, right? In terms of the Samurai wallet, their DMs were completely public and leaked, and because nothing's private, right? You have to just assume when using these social sites that there's a government agent looking over your shoulder. So if you go in with that kind of mentality, I think you can use it appropriately. But there's obviously a need to get off of these sites as much as possible, and only use them as much as is necessary, and to build up alternatives and use those alternatives.
How far, how much can we grow the Monero circular economy? Something like XMR Bazaar. I mean, what do you see as being possible with it? Like you're kind of alluding to here, where the way things are traditionally done with marketing and the existing social media sites that exist, it's about taking everybody's data and having central control over these systems, and with that you can do great things in terms of convenience and what you could offer the customers, but it comes at a price to the customer. With something like Monero and XMR Bazaar, where we're trying to build out a peer-to-peer circular economy, you lose some of those conveniences. Maybe there's ways to get around it and kind of rebuild those conveniences in a less nefarious way. But given your expertise, how far do you think we can take it? What do you think the future Monero circular economy looks like? How can we get it to millions of people living off Monero around the world using tools like XMR Bazaar and whatever else we end up inventing?
Probably not. If I'm going to be honest, I'm somewhat black-pilled in terms of where this all heads, where all this is going. I sort of take the same approach that Julian Assange takes in his book Cypherpunks. In the last chapter, he has a chapter called Rats in the Opera House, and he gives us an example of how he was at the Sydney Opera House, and he saw this rat that had somehow snuck in and was climbing on tables and just having a ball of a time, eating food and whatnot. And he sort of likened that to the cypherpunks living in this technocratic surveillance state, that with all of the security measures in the opera house, a rat can still climb through the walls and operate and kind of behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people think that Monero is going to be banned. I don't think it ever will be banned, because that's not how technocrats think. It's not how they work. And I think you have to understand your enemy. You really do need to study the historical roots of technocracy, because this is what's being pushed forward. And I would recommend you read the books of Patrick Wood. He's sort of the lead researcher on this subject. But technocrats, they use social engineering to control the populace. Monero will not be banned, in my opinion. I think what will happen to Monero is that they will just make the tax compliance so laborious that it will be deleterious for businesses to adopt it. So, and then it won't be banning Monero. It would be, your tax compliance is so ridiculously difficult to do correctly that they can just charge you for tax evasion or some tax fraud. And that's how they will stop it. They'll use nudges and pressures. They're not going to flat out ban it. They're not going to kick down your door and steal your Monero. They will surveil you and then use social engineering techniques through technology like social media and censorship in order to nudge you to a certain behavior. Douglas, I think this is where this is going, if I'm going to be honest. Imagine you wake up one morning and the first thing you do, you check your phone, some type of social media site, and you see a post like, oh, that's interesting, and you share it and you heart it. Then you get up, you put on your robe, and you head over to your kitchen. You're going to have some of that sweet gratuitous coffee that you're planning to have. And as you're walking to the kitchen, you get a notification on your phone. And it says, the notification says something to the effect of, you have engaged in some type of policy violation. Please remove your interactions on that post. And you just ignore it. You get to the kitchen, and as you go on to turn your kettle, your phone vibrates again. It says, sorry, you're unable to turn on your kettle because you still have not complied with this. Please do so in 5 minutes, otherwise we will permanently shut down your kettle. And that is how this will operate. It will operate through a complete centralization of all technology. This is why I think they want everything on electricity, and they want smart meters. They can control applications and appliances in your home to do something like that. It's not going to be, some police officer kicking down your door, and it's like that's what the Bolsheviks did, right? They kind of like by brute force, that's how those totalitarian regimes worked, and it didn't work. The USSR fell within 100 years. It didn't even last 100 years. The technocrats are far more sophisticated in their strategy in terms of controlling populations, and they do this through social engineering, and it's something that I keep a close eye on, because as a marketer, that's essentially what you're doing. It's a form of behavioral modification, a form of behavioral control. I try to do it in a way that isn't nefarious. I try to do it in a positive sense. It's a tool, right? You can use these tools for good or for evil. And in fact, even Hitler in Mein Kampf, he has a whole chapter on propaganda, and he defines propaganda as a weapon. And it is a weapon. It's used in wartime to destroy your enemy. And he actually says in his writing there that one of the reasons why the Germans lost World War I, he attributes solely to the British and their propaganda efforts. He says they was far superior in propaganda. And I agree. I think the British have led in the realms of propaganda, and probably still do. So you have to understand the thinking of your enemy, their techniques and their methods. And it comes back to Sun Tzu, right? The art of war. Know your enemy, and you have to know your enemy. You have to know what their end goal is, which is a complete technocratic surveillance state where they're not only are changing society, they're changing you as well. And that's part of this. It's Patrick Wood has an excellent book called the Evil Twins of Technocracy and Transhumanism. I recommend that people read that. It's a great primer into the subject. And ideally, this ideology goes hand in hand with transhumanism. It's about changing you. Imagine if you woke up one day and suddenly you had gills. It's like, I can't breathe. I need water. It's like, oh, here we go. And some benevolent, multi-billionaire says, oh, I've created the perfect habitat for you. Here's an underwater, utopia I've created. All you have to do is jump in. So by changing you, they can then make you prepared for the correct environment in which they want to get you in. So that's why these things sort of go hand in hand. It's actually called operant conditioning. I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but
this is fantastic, man.
It's all sort of interconnected. So in the beginning of the 20th century, you had Pavlov and his bell ringing, and that was in the USSR. And then in the States, you had B.F. Skinner, and they pretty much were doing the same thing. It's the science of behaviorism. And the idea is that if you can control someone's environment, you can then control their behavior. That's essentially what it comes down to. So when the bell rings, the dogs salivate, you eventually take the food away, and all you have is the bell. You can ring the bell, and they continue to salivate. I think it's very interesting that on all social media sites, what is the symbol of the notification icon?
Right. Yeah.
It's a bell.
It's the Pavlov, yeah. Yeah,
so is that intentional? I'm not entirely sure, but the techniques are certainly the same. By controlling what's on your feed, it's a way of controlling your environment or controlling your perception of the environment, which can then modify your behavior. Even how the newsfeed operates, it's like a slot machine. If you ever found yourself just scrolling endlessly on the newsfeed, it's because it is intentionally designed to put useful information and things which isn't so useful, so that you're constantly getting a mix of really good content and really bad content. So you're inclined to scroll more.
Keep looking. Yeah.
This is called a variable ratio of reinforcement. So Skinner, and he had these Skinner box. He put pigeons in these boxes, and he had them tap on a peck on the wall to dispense food. And he found that if you delay that every 5 seconds, the pigeon will eventually learn every 5 seconds that's when they get food. But if you randomize the dispensing of the feed with the peck, the rate of pecking scales exponentially. So this is the same sort of idea behind slot machines. So essentially, when you're on your news feed and you're scrolling, you're pulling a slot machine every single time, and it's done by design. And this is why advertisers love social media, right? Because it's a behavioral shaping tool, and it's a way to get products in front of people. So there's a good use to this. I'm not trying to paint it all bad, but it certainly is intended to shape your perception of reality and then control your behavior. And this is why I think I'm pretty black-pilled when it comes to the technocratic state and I suppose the attitudes of people. I think too many people are too happy to be socially engineered, too happy to be conditioned, because you really need a populace to embrace this, who is dependent on their urges being satiated. You know, if you remove a moral compass of doing what is right, which could not be unpleasurable or lead to negative consequences, but if you can create or get people accustomed to only living for immediate gratification, and that's what these social media sites do, they give you dopamine, then you're creating a populace that is easier to control with technology. And I think it's all part of the plan to get people into the technocratic system.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of what we're up against and how technocracy works and how it is working and it's growing in power. But perhaps I'm a little bit more optimistic in terms of, you know, what we can do in terms of resist. You know, the mouse that you see that pops out is just the one that popped out, but go into the walls behind the wall of the theater and there's thousands of them, and then go under the ground in New York and there's more rats than people and they're thriving. So, you know, I do think with tools like Monero more than anything else, I just don't see how they, you know, stop us to that degree. It just really does come down to, and perhaps this is why you're perhaps more pessimistic than I, is an understanding of human nature, right? And you obviously understand it very well. You're an advertiser. You know how people function. So ultimately, what will people choose, right? And you're saying they'll choose slavery, technocracy, because that's what they've been trained to do and what they've done in the past. I don't know. I guess I'm hoping there's enough of us that choose liberty, because the opt-out option is there. The tools are there. So yeah. I don't know. Obviously, none of us know, but I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than you, though, in that regard.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it comes down to worldview. And I personally got into Monero because of my Christian beliefs. I think Monero gels well with my Christian presuppositions in terms of private property, accountability, you know, being actually accountable for your actions, the use of stewardship and actually using your resources. But then also what the Bible predicts about the end of the age and the end of the world. You know, there's a great deal of the Bible. I think even Joe Rogan pointed this out recently in Revelation 13, talks about a global government, global religion, and a global economy in which you cannot buy or sell unless you are plugged into this beast system. And I certainly see that happening on the horizon, near horizon. So I'm not a humanist, so I don't think there's any human way of stopping this. I think it's somewhat inevitable, but that doesn't mean you don't resist it. It doesn't mean you don't fight it. So I'm all for the fight. I'm all for peaceful non-compliance and resisting this, but I don't think it's going to be stopped by human means. So I am hopeful. It doesn't mean I'm pessimistic or depressed or down about it. I have a confidence in something else.
You're pragmatic about it, and you're obviously hopeful enough in that you're trying to resist with things like, you know, the efforts here with the Monero Circular Economy Pledge. So yeah, 100%. Or you wouldn't be doing this, right? It'd be futile if you didn't think there was something we can get out of trying. Monero Masterman, thank you so much. This is fantastic. Obviously, I think this would have deserved a Monero talk, but I'm glad you jumped on here. We could talk again. Any chance we see you down at Monerotopia in Mexico?
Probably not. I have a very busy life, and I've got lots of little kids, so
okay,
it can be difficult to get away. But at some point, I'd love to. I actually think you should try and connect with Derek Bros, because I do know he's in Mexico, and he has
in the past. He'll be there. He was there last year. He'll be there this year. Yep, okay, for sure.
So yeah, he's a cool dude. So yeah, I'd love to go, but probably not in the near future. I think at some point, but definitely.
Yeah, no worries, man. Just throwing it out there because obviously we'd love to have you down there. It's moneromaster.substack.com to follow Monero Master's blog. What's your Twitter? Anything? Any other info you want to put out there? People can
just
follow you.
moneromaster.com. It does redirect there. So moneromaster.com is where you can go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really too active on Twitter, so it might not be worthwhile following me there. But I'm sure if you could probably find me. I don't even know what my handle is technically. I think it's Monero_master is what it is. But yeah, Substack might be the place where you want to.
And people can find you on XMR Bazaar as well, right? So you can interact with him there. Buy and sell goods and services with Monero Master. Hire him for consulting to improve your listing. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. Greatly appreciate it. You can stick around if you like. If you got to go, we understand. But thanks for stopping by.
Great. I really appreciate the time. Talk soon.
Cheers, buddy. That was awesome. All right. Tux, if you're there, let's keep it moving. Well, I guess we could do news.
Time to do news. Yep. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Right.
Ready. Give me 1 second here.
What do we got? Yeah, no problems. I have Florida here saying, I need a huge magnet Monero or Monero magnet ad for the side of my van. Does anyone know where they sell those? I don't know. Put it up on XMR Bazaar, man. Maybe you'll find somebody to make one for you. That's pretty cool, though.
All right.
All right.
So there we go. All right. So first news link we have here.
What do we got?
Lockbit. Yeah, I saw this earlier this week. Lockbit. This is overhyped. Very overhyped. So they were kind of overhyped. Oh yeah, we get Federal Reserve data. We're gonna leak it, and it turned out to really just be a third-party bank, Evolve Bank data. And I think that was mostly it. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, the Federal Reserve's deep dark secrets. It was nothing like that. An Arkansas-based bank.
And they were asking for Monero payment or something?
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, let me go back to the tweet. I guess this didn't say specifically. But yeah, I believe they were asking for Monero. I remember seeing lots of tweets about this earlier. It was overhyped earlier this week, and then everyone was disappointed. So, yeah, it happens.
Well, at least they were asking for Monero, so that's a good sign. But no, they didn't get the Federal Reserve's data. Sorry, guys.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Yep, tweet from Aaron Day. Monero was my most used crypto this year. I mean, it really is true that Monero is like, it's one of the, if not the one that's actually like used mostly in the real world.
Yeah, I wanted to put that out there. You know, Aaron Day, he obviously likes Monero. He uses Monero, but he's not some like Monero maxi. And here he is honestly stating how that was his most used crypto at PorcFest. So it's not just me, guys. I'm not bullshitting. I swear, you come out to PorcFest, you'll see it. See it for yourselves. All right.
Oh yeah, this is cool. So I remember saying earlier this week that Assange, they were basically donated, whatever the group is, that had paid for his flight, which is very, very expensive to get flown out of the UK. Somebody had donated a crap ton of Bitcoin, and everyone's like cheering and rallying around that. I was like, oh yeah, great, unstoppable money. I'm just thinking that's cool, and that shows like a good thing, but someone's going to trace this down because I mean it's such a large amount of Bitcoin, and well, here we go. Tweet Matt Green. Amazing to be that within a few minutes of a newsworthy event, somebody noting Bitcoin to Assange, folks could located the transaction and sender address, and I don't mean amazing in a good way.
So they tracked one donation in particular? You're saying there was like one large donation that was made?
I think this is one large one. Yeah. I think he means receiver address, not sender address. But yeah, essentially they had opened up Bitcoin donations, and of course Bitcoin's not private at all, so It's just going to be used as a thing to potentially surveil on people who are donating to their cause.
If you're gonna donate, guys, use Monero. I mean, everybody watching this show already knows, but let's get the word out on that as well, right? It's one of the best use cases
because they would
for
actually
Monero.
get more of the money. They would be able to keep more of the money because people wouldn't be, or people who are donating wouldn't have to pay the fee, right? And even if you're like swapping, so if you have a giant pool of Monero and you're swapping, doing an instant swap from Monero to BTC for that, even that's better than just using Bitcoin from like a wallet that has a lot of Bitcoin in it. So it's cool to see that people are like donating, giving, using Bitcoin, but it's not the best way. Let's be honest here.
It's literally one of the best, most powerful use cases for crypto. This ability to anonymously send your money somewhere and donate to a cause. It's like free speech. It is free speech at its maximum purpose. And Bitcoin doesn't work well for that, guys. It was supposed to. It doesn't. Monero does.
All right, we got a tweet from Seth for privacy. I've long said that trying to use Monero or any privacy-preserving cryptocurrencies as a tunnel for privacy between transparent cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum is pointless. Law enforcement and investigations continue to prove that point. Yeah, a lot of people like to do this where they think they're somehow making their Bitcoin or their Litecoin, their Ethereum private by just doing a quick swap from Ethereum to Monero back to Ethereum, or same thing with Bitcoin. But in reality, it's not that easy. And I'll read this image right here. The FBI's analysis of St. Felix's cryptocurrency transactions found that he used the instant exchanger fixed float to swap Bitcoin and Ethereum stolen from the North Carolina man for Monero, a cryptocurrency designed to be difficult to trace, and then back to Ethereum. But because he carried out those swaps in a single web session, there it is, guys. Prosecutors were able to subpoena FixFloat for its records and show that the sender and recipient were almost certainly the same person, despite his attempts at obfuscation. FixFloat basically connected the beginning and end points of the tunnel, says Chris James. So I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. Head of global investigations at cryptocurrency tracing firm TRM Labs, which published analysis of the case. It doesn't matter what you do in between if you can get the inputs and outputs. So this is some people. They don't really.
So wait, explain to me. So somebody used an instant exchange essentially.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, somebody used FixFloat. They took Ethereum, swapped it to Monero, immediately swapped it back to Ethereum. And there's so many things wrong with this because you can kind of do this in a way that's private, but it involves not using the same exchange, not using the exact amount, doing it at a completely different time and doing different amounts, right? If you're taking 0.1 BTC, swapping it to Monero, then immediately swapping that just about that exact amount minus a small fee back into BTC, then it's going to, especially if you're using the same exchange, if you're using the same IP address, it's going to be pretty obvious and easy to find out.
That it's you.
That it's you. So you can, but the reason people don't recommend this is because there's a lot you have to think about. You're better off just converting, taking all of that BTC, taking all that ETH, converting it into Monero, and just leaving it there. Just leaving it. Just make a giant pool of Monero, and when you have to, you can actually spend in BTC or spend in ETH. You can swap little amounts on different exchanges. Make sure you don't use the same refund address.
And then when enough people just start doing that, the value of it's also going to go up. So it's like it's a win-win for everyone, guys. Like, what are you doing? Not that we want to help criminals wash their coins, but come on, you're a freaking idiot. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
People aren't learning their lessons. And so, who is this person? I don't even know anything about the FBI. So, what would they? Who was this person or people?
Court documents reveal how more than a dozen men threatened, assaulted, tortured, or kidnapped 11 victims.
Oh, wow.
To coerce them to hand over access to cryptocurrency. Likely the worst crypto-focused physical extortion crime spree ever in the U.S. Interesting.
Definitely type of people we don't want out there, type of people we want getting caught for these types of crimes, because it's literally crimes against people like us that use crypto. That being said, if you're just a user and you're looking to obfuscate your transactions, don't do it in the way these people did. Really bad. Glad they got caught.
Felix, a 24-year-old Florida man led a group of men behind a violent crime spree designed to compel victims to hand over access to their cryptocurrency savings. Wow. Yep.
Well, at least we know degenerates like that don't watch Monerotopia, right? Because they obviously wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Oh, let me share my screen again. Where's it
Bad
next?
people, man, stealing people's crypto.
Yeah, crazy. So I didn't get to read this whole thing, but I guess there was a Supreme Court decision which has overruled the Chevron doctrine, which required courts to defer to the legal interpretations of unelected bureaucrats. Chevron.
See if you could bring it up though. I don't think you're sharing your screen right now. Where
sorry. There we go. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No worries.
Which was quoted by this tweet.
Balaji, did a good breakdown of it. I don't know if you want to read some example. So basically, the Supreme Court ruled on this, and it's a win. It's a win for the people. It hurts the quote unquote deep state, right? The regulators. It makes it more difficult for them to just create new regulations and then use them against people in an unlawful way, without people that they're being used against have some kind of recourse, right? There where they can contest the regulations that are being used against them. So it's a win. It's a win for liberty-minded people like us that want less regulations, that don't want the government to be able to just, use these agencies to create and enforce and adjudicate the regulations. So now it's basically the finding is by the Supreme Court that, the regulators, these agencies can't be the creator of the regulations and then also the adjudicator. Like there's a means for you to fight against the regulation in court and determine whether or not it's lawful. That's my, I think, quick understanding of it. So it's positive. It's positive for crypto. I don't know. I think Balaji gives an example here under cryptocurrency. I can't read it. What is he saying? Number 3.
You guessed it. Did Congress explicitly give the SEC authority to regulate crypto? No, it did not. Cryptocurrencies didn't exist when the 1933 and 1934 acts were written. However, the SEC says it has regulatory authority over crypto, even when Congress is deliberating on bills to the contrary. Implicitly, that claim of SEC authority too was under Chevron. Oh, wow.
So in other words, if a regulator can't point to the law that gives them the power, they may not have the power, and you might be able to win in a court of law. So it gives us a means for fighting against these agencies. These,
could be a big W for crypto.
Yeah, these deep state run agencies that create these regulations with no they're not elected officials, right? They weren't elected into Congress, and they're basically creating these laws effectively that people need to follow, and then with no recourse for us to basically determine whether or not the laws themselves are just and legal and constitutional. And it looks like that has changed, which almost sounds like too good to be true, but I don't know. Everybody's celebrating it, so it seems like it's legit, guys. So a win for us. Good stuff.
All right, that is awesome. So this is one I found. I saw people talking about this morning. IRS reveals final regulations for crypto broker rules. The Internal Reserve did not include decentralized exchanges or self-custodial wallets under its broker reporting requirements. So it's both good and bad. So the good part is that they did not, like the tagline mentioned, they did not include non-custodial or decentral wallets or decentralized exchanges under these new rules, but they are getting stricter on centralized exchanges. The IRS revealed its final draft of the new crypto broker reporting requirements on June 28th and clarified the scope of industry participants affected by the new rule changes. According to the IRS's new reporting guidelines, decentralized exchanges and self-custody wallets will not be subject to the new reporting rules. In the recent update, the IRS explained that it reviewed the widespread comments and complaints from industry respondents, ultimately deciding it needed more time to consider the nuances of completely centralized networks, which means they'll be coming back to it later.
Yeah.
You know, it's just been pushed. It's been pushed back back a little bit.
Yeah.
Moreover,
They turn the heat up. They see the frog's about to jump out. They're like, lower the heat.
Yeah.
We don't want you jumping out of the pot.
We'll only make it worse on the centralized part. But yeah, we'll wait. We'll get to your non-custodial wallets later. Don't worry. Moreover, stablecoins and tokenized real-world assets were not exempt from the government agency's new reporting requirements and will be treated the same as other digital assets.
All right.
Yep. Next up, tweet from Untraceable. Peter Thiel on Bitcoin and crypto. When people in the FBI tell me that they much rather criminals use Bitcoin than $100 bills, it suggests that maybe it's not quite working the way it's supposed to. Maybe you need a Monero. It works the way it's supposed to.
Probably the part where I'm less convinced of is this question of the sort of ideological founding vision of Bitcoin or these cryptocurrencies as sort of a cypherpunk, crypto-anarchist, libertarian, anti-centralized government thing. This is always the line.
Isn't that what got you interested in the first place?
That's what I thought was terrific about it. And then the question is, does it really work that way, or has that thread somehow gotten lost? And so when people in the FBI tell me that they'd much rather have criminals use Bitcoin than $100 bills, it suggests that maybe it's not quite working the way it was supposed to.
Have you sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. There are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, and I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here,
yeah, I think we got the ETF edition, and I don't know who else buys it quickly from here.
Some interesting investment advice.
So two tremendous insights. Oh, I guess you keep playing. I don't know. Does he have more to say?
Yeah,
here?
just half another minute.
That actually surprised me. I don't think I've heard you. I thought you were still all in.
I still have a small position. It probably still can go up some, but it's going to be a volatile, bumpy ride. And I had a dual reason. One was this sort of ideological, decentralized future of computing world that I really do believe in, really believe would be better. And it seemed like the perfect vehicle for that for such a long time. And I am just much less convinced of that. And so
interesting.
So maybe Larry Fink with the BlackRock ETF surrendered to the forces, the anti-ESG forces, or maybe it's more like Bitcoin's been co-opted by them, and I worry it was more the latter.
Boom, yes sir. He knows what's up. He knows what's up.
That's tremendous insights from a very intelligent guy who's at the forefront of technology, Peter Thiel. He's been interested in digital cash for a long time. Billionaire, libertarian, and he's saying two things really. Number one, this is what the Bitcoiners were most focused on, is the fact that he's saying he doesn't think it's going to go up much more, right? Maybe it's already a pretty large asset. Like how many more times can it double is essentially, I think, is what he's saying there. And then number two, he's saying it doesn't work as digital cash, which is what he's most interested in about crypto in the first place. Which is the more revealing and insightful thing that people should take away from this. The Bitcoin maxi shouldn't be like, oh my God, he's saying it's not going to quadruple anymore. What he's really saying is it doesn't work as digital cash, and that's what Bitcoin was supposed to be. So tremendous that Peter Thiel is now saying this. The only thing he could have said more here is, and I'm looking at Monero, right? But he doesn't. Who knows why? I mean, it's hard to believe that he doesn't yet know about Monero. I'd find that extremely hard to believe and almost like troubling. And
anyone who's remotely into crypto, I'm sure has heard of Monero at this point.
This guy is so on top. This guy was like PayPal, right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He was. I think he's saying he bought in 24. He knew about Bitcoin early, right? He's part of that Silicon Valley insider crowd. Maybe he's Zcasher, right? Because you have the Zcash crowd that was you have a lot of these Silicon Valley guys that for whatever reason they were trying to push Zcash. I guess because maybe they had a part of the dev fund or not the dev fund, the founders fund. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for whatever reason, he hasn't said the M word. Maybe he's just acquiring some before he starts saying it. Who knows? But he certainly said it without saying it.
Crazy. I mean, the Bitcoin maxi narrative is over time. It's started to crumble, but it's been happening more rapidly over the past year, I think.
Yep. So what else we got? Oh, yeah.
This is very unfortunate. It's very sad. Thomas Massie's wife, I guess, passed away yesterday or the day before. Seems kind of sudden.
Super sudden, right? She wasn't like, she didn't have like cancer or anything, right? That we know of, right? It wasn't like she was on her last leg here. It was she's out of nowhere. She passed away. So there's conspiracy theories obviously circling around right away. That's what the internet does. But Thomas Massie himself, if there is a Congress, if there's a handful of Congress people that actually are in it for the liberty, that are out there fighting for liberty, he is absolutely one of them. He's proven to be
he's
one
like
of them.
one of very, very, very few people that actually should be
he
there.
really. Yeah. I don't know. Has he uttered Monero yet? He was at the Libertarian National Convention. I didn't get to talk to him. I wanted to do that. I would love to get his take on it. He actually, so I tweeted this out there as a, to send my condolences. He actually followed me in
Really?
response.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's good. At least
That's
we know we
awesome.
have his ear in that respect. And maybe once he gets through this at some point in the future, maybe we can get him to jump on and talk to us. He's extremely open, but from what I've seen, very open and genuine, just willing to talk about technology. He's an engineer, smart guy, inventor, just an open-minded, liberty-loving dude.
He's one of the very, very, very few who hasn't taken money from IPAC. Very few, few, handful,
Well, this is where the conspiracy theories that are floating around, right? He recently came out in a podcast and was talking about the fact that everybody in Congress, essentially, is what he was saying is in some way influenced by AIPAC, right? And saying that every congressperson has their own AIPAC representative.
Yeah, their own AIPAC person,
right? And I could kind of speak to this when I ran for Congress. Not that I'm looking to have any of my loved ones approached. I'm not a congressperson, so you can have it, guys. When I ran, I got letters. I got approached. I basically got forced to write an essay. They wanted to see an essay on my take on Israel or something like that, and I had somebody in my campaign who was very passionate about the issue. I had them write it at the time. I wasn't getting involved, but it was bizarre. And it was like, why am I being asked to do it? And it was like, in a way where they weren't giving up. Like they really hounding me down to do this. I ignored it. Person in my campaign was particularly passionate about it, so I let them go, do their thing. And I said, all right. But it was odd. It was strange, and he's saying that's exactly what happens once you're when elected as well, and they assign a person to you, and I guess they're in constant contact with you, trying to influence you one way or the other, which sounds great for their purposes, but perhaps they have a little bit too much power and influence.
I mean, they effectively bribe you with money. It's an air quote donation, but it's with lots of strings attached with the amount of money they're giving.
Right, it's bribing you with money, but they take there's two approaches. There's the here's the money, and then there's also the pressure that they put on you to respond and take a stance on things. And they ask you and they say, you need to take a stance one way or the other. And and they're only satisfied with one particular type of stance. And if you don't take that stance, you're now their enemy, and they, try to bury you in other ways. So this is what legislators of all, this is what there's a lot of different groups out there doing these types of things, but they happen to be quite powerful. And so Massie recently made this revelation, and it's a conspiracy theory that
I mean, it's very
perhaps.
possible that, I mean, some people like they try to keep their private life, well, just that private. So it's very possible that maybe his wife was dealing with something behind the scenes, and he's just not very public
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Um,
It's
but it is always interesting to think about because I mean, Thomas Massie, he's got a lot of political enemies. I mean, this guy, he's he's one of the only people that like really follows the Constitution and votes that way.
mhm.
So he gets a lot of enemies.
He's got a lot of enemies. I think he recently put forward like an end the Fed bill, right?
Yep,
Like and the
yeah,
Federal
that
Reserve.
was authored by him, wasn't it?
Yeah. So there's you create some enemies when you do things like that. But I don't think he's suggesting in any way that's what happened. But obviously the
No,
the
no.
internet is the internet is making that suggestion, and it's because of this. The conspiracy theory that's out there is because of this how he exposed APAC and the influence they have. But obviously, conspiracy theories nobody knows.
Yeah, at the moment it's founded not to disregard all conspiracy theories, but at the moment there's like no actual like proof that it was IPAC or
Yeah,
anything. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But yeah, condolences to him and his family. It's very sad. But I'm glad that he's he's gonna keep fighting. He's gonna keep doing what he does best.
yeah. Exactly. We just hope and pray that he keeps charging ahead because he is one of the good ones, one of the few that's out there for the passion of fighting for liberty. So I hope this turns into more motivation for him and doesn't I hope it isn't. I mean, obviously there's few things that can be more hard on a person than something like that. So I hope he somehow charges on.
And on that topic, I'm sure everybody saw that Julian Assange was released from the Belmarsh maximum security prison last week, June 24th, which is huge. And he's going to be taking a plea deal with the United States. But he's so far has returned to his homeland, Australia. And the tweet that I had opened before, Assange did not plead guilty to some heinous crime, but to activities that journalists engage in every day and that we absolutely need them to engage in. Until Julian Assange is pardoned, press freedom remains at risk. So it is really cool to see that he was able to like free himself from his essentially like 24/7 solitary confinement that he had for like 6 years. And keep in mind, remember, this guy, he's never been convicted of anything yet. He's not been convicted of anything yet. He has never had a trial. He's just been held in lockup until these countries can decide, when they want to do with him.
Well, now he has essentially been convicted of.
Now, yes, now
yeah.
he has taken a plea deal, and he's
He pled guilty
he
to
pled
basically
guilty to certain charges.
the Espionage Act, that he violated the Espionage Act is what he had to plead guilty to.
So
And
it's like two parts, good and bad. It's really nice that he's able to be like free and home, but it also sets a scary precedent. Is that the reason that he is right now is because he pled guilty to some insane U.S. laws. And he's not even a U.S. citizen. Like, it's crazy how much of a political prisoner he's been over the past 6 years. Yeah, now he has been convicted of being guilty. He's pled guilty. But before that, him being in prison for 6 years in like a really terrible prison, before that, he wasn't convicted of anything. He was just held up in lockup.
right
In terrible conditions.
without trial, right? Yeah, he was unlawfully detained and thrown in jail for basically a decade. More, right? How long overall?
It was it was like 6 years in the Belmarsh prison.
No. Yeah, but wasn't he somewhere else before that? Wasn't he?
He was in Ecuadorian embassy in the UK.
Yeah. So wasn't that essentially
Which was less of a
as well?
prison, but it was still like he was stuck there. He couldn't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
he was stuck. Right. I mean, that's that's so he definitely did his time for sure for something that he shouldn't be doing time for. But they made him plead guilty to violating the Espionage Act. It's this age-old story of national security versus any other fundamental right we have, and all the rights get flushed down the toilet for purposes of national security.
I'll go ahead and read this first paragraph. Without ever having a chance to vindicate his right to freedom of the press, being incarcerated for 14 years in asylum and prison, dealing with his health failing, and being denied the companionship of his wife and 2 young sons, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pled guilty on Wednesday to a single felony count of illegally conspiring to obtain and disclose U.S. national defense secrets. Under the deal's terms, he was sentenced to the 5 years already served in prison under the UK and allowed to immediately return to Australia. So, yeah, that was his charge. It was a felony count of illegally conspiring to obtain and disclose U.S. national defense secrets.
Yeah, which is comes from the Espionage. Yeah, it comes from the Espionage Act. Which is it's one of those things, right? Yep.
Does not have a defense for the First Amendment.
Right. The espionage does not have, yeah, there you go, right? So all those things get thrown out the window when there's the espionage, right?
Constitution, what?
Sounds like it's nice to have for national security. We all, but
yeah,
not when it means that we don't have any press anymore, or we have the ability to just throw people in jail when we don't like the information that they're disseminating. That's not how freedom of speech works.
Dirty people like Julian Assange.
Yeah.
How could he possibly show us that our government is super corrupt?
So it's definitely a step forward. Interesting of the timing too, that it happened now under Biden, before the election. I don't know if they were trying to, if this
score brownie points.
Yeah, score brownie points. Or this was a way to force, they definitely forced Julian Assange into pleading guilty to this. Why would he not take the deal, right? He just wants to get out.
This is in all like realistically, this is a pretty good outcome for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's unfortunate that the precedent that's being set, but it is a pretty good outcome for him. Like, he did not get.
Yeah, but you could also look at it as, if it didn't happen, right, and Trump won, would he have just pardoned him? Right, and what they've gotten away with here is they've taken away that ability for Trump to set precedent and say, no, actually, he's not guilty of violating the Espionage Act, and actually setting precedent that freedom of speech is a value that we have here in this country.
Well, he technically could still pardon him of his charge, couldn't he?
Sure. Yes, he could. But it's a little bit of a move on the chessboard there, but potentially by the deep state.
Now it's much as likely.
Yeah.
It's not a hot issue now, as much as it was.
Exactly. So by doing that before Trump got elected, they've kind of taken that chess piece off the board.
Yep.
So interesting. Yeah, and I say before Trump got elected, because if anybody saw the Biden debate, I mean, right now I think it's clear to say Trump is the front runner. I think we can say that with confidence. Who knows what's going to happen next, though? I don't know. Do we have that might be in one of our next news stories. Do we have anything Trump Biden related in our news stories?
Yeah, we have this last one, which I think is a little silly. John McAfee's cryptic tweet from July 18, 2020 stated Russia's first-time traveler has returned and Biden is medically unfit for office in September for medical reasons, allowing DC to legally replace him. He goes on to agree with the comment suggesting Michelle Obama will be the replacement. The scenario is currently playing out. Keep in mind, John McAfee said this for 2020 election. I believe from his tweet, he's talking about September of that year. I don't think he had some
now
super
people have
far away knowledge
to
of, like 4 years ago. Like, he was some actual time traveler, whatever. A lot of people have suggested Michelle Obama because it's easy to ride off. That's how Joe Biden got elected. It was easy for him to ride off.
He did write it right, but it could literally play out this way. In September, Biden is medically diagnosed as unfit for office and quits. They discovered that the DNC has the legal power to choose a replacement without a national vote. Weird, huh? And then the way it is all going down, it's interesting, right? Because the primary already passed. There's no Democratic primary. And now essentially the party will just be able to choose whoever they want if Biden bows out and says, hey guys, I'm done being president, can't do it anymore. And then they force Kamala to go along with him. And then at that point, the Dems can, whatever the 10 guys that run the party or can choose whoever they want essentially. It could even happen after the Democratic convention, right? So Democratic convention, maybe Biden still gets nominated somehow. Even after that, if after that, a month, a couple of weeks after that, Biden steps down and says, I'm not going to run, then it's basically a couple of people in the back room from the Democratic Party deciding who the candidate is. So that's pretty wild.
This is what happens when you vote for an 80-year-old with severe dementia.
But it seems pretty damn intentional, right? They skipped the Democratic primary. This debate didn't need to happen. Why was the Biden campaign so eager to go run and do this debate? They did it earlier than when these debates normally take place. Didn't seem like good strategy on their part.
Because now they're gonna, it's gonna be the excuse of like, oh, his health's declining. We need someone else now, and they're gonna use this as an example.
Right, exactly. Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the Democratic, the establishment of the party, is doing, basically rolled them out there on purpose for purposes of being able to now go pick another candidate. They know that Biden can't beat Trump. They need somebody else if they're gonna try to beat him. And so this is a way to do that.
Honestly, I didn't think you'd make it this far. I mean, he's given his cocktail of whatever every single day. He's barely kept alive. Crazy.
It's very sad. It's very sad to see.
It is very sad.
He's an old man. You see him with his wife out there, dragging him out there. I can't imagine he wants to be there. People are saying, though, he's stubborn and wants to stay. I think they'll definitely scare him out of it if he does want to stay. They'll tell him, listen, Joe, if you stay,
by now.
if you stay, you're gonna lose, and if you lose, Trump regime is gonna try to put you and your family in jail. So you should probably step down. I think that's the conversation that's happening right now. Somebody's gonna basically, if he's not already just gonna do it on his own accord, they're gonna scare him into doing it. And who, you don't think it's gonna be Michelle Obama? Who do you think is gonna be the?
I mean, it could be. I feel like they would try to push Kamala Harris first, but
I don't know. But I don't think she can win, though. I don't think she can win.
I've also heard like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah,
I mean, most of these people are just like they're not liked by the majority of people. Even a lot of Democrats don't like them. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm hearing this guy, Josh Shapiro. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. Let me quickly bring that up. That's a name I've been hearing now. Josh Shapiro, and I actually didn't know much about him. I don't know, it flew under my radar. He's the governor of Pennsylvania, so he might be the establishment's next option for trying to keep the power. So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on that guy, Josh Shapiro. I don't know if anybody follows things closely, but I could see him being a potential candidate replacement. Do we got any other news?
Nope, that was it.
And I tweeted Josh Shapiro asking him his take on Bitcoin and Monero. He's interesting. He's trying to be like the liberty guy of the Democratic Party. Not as much of as RFK has gone, not nearly that far, but he's like trying to spin it, saying like, like they're for freedom and liberty on that side, and like, with the women's rights with abortion and a couple of other issues, but he's taking the freedom angle in his campaign. So it's pretty interesting.
Is he at least more honest in how his policies are going to inevitably be very progressive, even if he is slightly more libertarian, unlike some people like Chase Oliver?
Right. Somebody's saying RFK. Yeah, could RFK become the Democratic nominee at this point from the convention? I don't even know. Is that possible? I don't know.
I doubt it.
They would never do it. The establishment, the Democratic establishment, or the establishment in general, would never put him in.
He's not even that good, though, for being honest. Like, I don't think he's that dangerous, but I also don't see them. I haven't seen him propped up at all. But he's not that great. I mean, he's kind of a lefty that's tried to embrace the libertarian thing, but you still see it creep out with like him being a gun grabber and stuff.
Exactly.
And he gets the money from Israel, so he's compromised there.
Right. He could be like controlled opposition, take votes away from Trump type of, So yeah, guys, I think Trump is the best bet. I've voted for Trump in the past. When I ran in 2020 for Congress, I said I was voting for him, but then I also gave my disclaimer listing all the reasons why I didn't like him, but I was obviously selecting him over Biden at the time. But now I'm at the point where I'm not even giving these disclaimers. He is clearly the best option we have in terms of pushing things forward for, I'd say, liberty in the U.S. and in the world, mostly because I feel like he's been attacked by the system. He's personally facing the attacks of the deep state. The large federal government has completely turned on him and made him an enemy. So if elected, he's going to go in there and he's going to seek retribution in the form of dismantling parts of the federal government. And I think that will be a good
Hopefully,
outcome.
will he clean the swamp this time? We'll find out, I guess.
Well, better shot than anybody else. Biden certainly isn't doing it. Michelle Obama is not going to do it. This guy Josh Shapiro is not going to do it. RFK Jr. is not going to get elected, and I'm not so sure he would do it either. Although I liked his, obviously his takes on the vaccines. Very knowledgeable in that area. His take on Fauci. His take on the CIA, right? But I don't, like you said, I don't know how true he is in his convictions either. I think Trump, because he literally has been getting persecuted by these people, that he is going to go in there with the conviction of, let me, fight back and dismantle pieces of the machine. That's my take. Politicians are just puppets and a waste of time. Yeah, surely. But they do exist, and we live in a world where we elect them, especially here in the U.S., and then they have a lot of power. So you might as well play the game a little bit. You could devote 95% of your energy towards opting out and building out things like building out the Monero circular economy, parallel economy outside of their system. And you can use the other 5% of your energy to try to strategically do things in the current system to help get us to the end goal.
It's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that was all the news, right?
Yeah, that was it. It's time to viewers on stage.
Great job. Yeah, let's do it. Let's roll it. See if anybody wants to jump up.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
All right, guys, we've got...
All right. We got our full crew today?
Yes. I got a fair amount of people. We got Alaskanon, Troy Surfer, Nihilist, Prancing, and Elias. Let's go.
What's up, Alaskanon? How's it going?
Hello, gentlemen. I would have to say on the last topic that the two greatest presidents of all time are Biden and Trump. I've said this before.
Both of them?
Both of them have done more for the cause of anarchy than all the other presidents combined. I have never seen so many people turn against their government than with those two presidents being elected. And all I can say is 4 more years of tyranny, no matter which one it is, especially Biden, because if shit could just get a little bit worse, we might get like 10%, 15% anarchy in like not even 4 years. So I'm over here, and I'm by no means traditionally an accelerationist, but I just saw it working firsthand. So, I mean, let's just hope that Trump doesn't come in and play the game so well that people start going back to daddy government, right? But I mean, to me, it's obvious who the system has already picked, and this is just a charade. They want Trump in so they can, do things with Republican support. They want to keep their base on the left side. They want to keep them rallied and fired up to beg for more tyranny.
I love that. I love that take. Yeah, I think it's a good one. But so, do you think if Trump Do you think, though, there is a chance, though, if Trump gets elected, that he does act like a bull in a china shop and shake things up in the federal government? Or no, it's just like...
I think we'll see it, but it's mostly because they need to pull back. They're probably looking for a certain demographic to re-enter things like military service, so they want to walk it back a little bit. I'm sure anybody who's familiar with like the 4chans of the world has seen there's a couple of people who frequently post about how watch them walk it back starting in such and such day because they need the participation of the productive members of society. So if they don't walk it back, then too many people will opt out. So now they're going to give a little, and that's kind of Trump's role, right? It's to
keeping the boiling frog theme. Got to get slow and steady
in the boiling water. But with that said, I don't want to sound like that's a hopeless situation, because I think one of the reasons why a lot of the events that were hoping to be crammed down our throat with an 8-year Trump presidency. Well, if you study some of these like World Economic Forum and stuff, they've been saying for quite a while that they're terrified of how slow the process towards things like CBDCs are going. And what that tells you, and something that I've believed for quite a while, is they're too far behind on the time horizons that the cabal had intended to reach, that having to walk it back in order to keep the public at ease is not actually what they want to do, but it's what they have to do. And I think that's because like let's call it freedom tech and the disgruntled elements that aren't going back to the government trough and all of that. There's too many people building the parallel systems. There's too many people opting out. There's too many people using things like flag theory and all these other things that are known to work, that if they don't get a stronger, firmer grasp on like the lockdown situation, then power may slip away for a very long period of time. So I don't think that... Go ahead.
Look, they lit a fuse. They lit a fuse, and they started to. They lit a fuse by the sanctions against Russia and stealing Russia's money. So they're purposely driving the world away from the U.S. dollar. So they lit a fuse with full intent of decimating the U.S. dollar. Well, the only bad thing about that is they're not ready with their global CBDC and unified ledger to be the rescuer when it all goes. So the things are going to fall out of sync. The dollar's going to die before. That's why the Fed is desperate to keep this dollar afloat until these other guys can catch up.
Yeah, that's a way better way to put it. Basically, they had a plan and a time horizon. They lit the fuse, and the pushback was more than maybe the algorithms had predicted. And now they find themselves in a situation where if they don't keep people on the farm, if they don't keep them on the plantation, it's all going to blow up in their face, right? So, and that's exactly where I was kind of going with it, is the timing did not line up, and that's proof that, this all-powerful view that a lot of people have about our technocratic overlords is clearly untrue, right? It's because there's no way that they would backpedal this hard. And it's pretty obvious that Trump is the controlled opposition plan B, right? But and that's also why I think they took Julian Assange off the table, because he has to make those promises, right? He has to make those Ross Ulbricht and stuff promises, because that's part of the image. So why not take it off the table, but also hold as much as you can as far as precedent situation? I think they took it off the table precisely because they want him to be able to not pardon him. They want to be like, that issue's over. It's been settled. I'm staying out of it. But if he had to deliver on that promise or get all of the people that they're trying to kind of bring back onto the plantation, right? If he didn't deliver on the promise, it would be yet another thing that people could point to. So to me, it's pretty fucking obvious, man, that like they have to walk it back. Otherwise they're going to get zero enlistment. I mean, all of my military buddies who are on IRR, every single one, that's individual ready reserve. So basically, if you were in the military, you got out, they reserve the right to call you back. It's, compelled service for a given period of time. 100% of all of them I know have all been compelled to re-enlist. Every single one of them. Now that's from a pool of people that would be more interesting to the military than, your average, like, let's say, like Coast Guard Reserve type situation. But they've all been called back, and it's because enlistment numbers are garbage, and that's international, by the way. It's the same everywhere.
Now the NDAA has just authorized selective service, the draft for all females as well as males in the United States.
I heard that Trump is going to jail. Is that true? Or
well, he's convicted of being a felon, I guess. Like, I mean, the world is a stage, right? It's all theater.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually try to put him in jail. A lot of people don't think that's the case. Some people are out there saying that they may actually try to pull that move.
Yeah, I mean,
you can be elected president from prison, though.
Right. Anything they do is going to help him. It's going to help him at that point.
But is it because of that hooker he paid off or stuff like that?
Yeah, he was basically found guilty of improper business dealings. Essentially, is
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that would just gain him even more attention if he went to jail. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the whole case was pretty absurd. Is he entered into a contract with somebody, and so he didn't. There was no real high crime committed. Freedom to contract. He entered into a contract. He had somebody sign a non-disclosure agreement.
He.
What's that? You cut off. Just want to say, guys, we got a lot of listeners. I don't think I even said it yet. Once the show, like and share. Let's boost it up. Just looking on Twitter. I mean, I know we say like the numbers are I don't know. The algorithm that X is using is showing larger numbers. It is. I mean,
but they were trumped up charges. There's no validity to any of those charges.
Yeah. So we're at 280 live listeners on X, and if you look at it compared to like some of the other live X events, I mean, we're in the top. So that's awesome. Like and share, guys. Keep growing it. We have anybody new up here that wants to jump in?
To what extent is that true? Like, how many listeners are there that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm just saying, relative to the other live spaces that I'm seeing now on X, like they have like 100 people or 138 or and much lower. And so
we could have just bots.
We're at 280.
Yeah. So it could all be bots listening to us.
Yeah, who knows?
Monero can stop winning, guys. That's how it is.
Neilus, what's going on?
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, I've been working on my blog lately, and I finished a lot of tutorials on privacy and anonymity recently. Yeah, it's going good, doing good. Yeah.
Very nice, very cool.
Speaking of things that are doing really well, Havino is doing really, really well.
Tell us.
Yeah, definitely.
It's we're at like 70, 75. I think it was 75.1 was the average weekly offers as of Monday. And it's it's increasing rapidly. I've seen blips up to like 94, 95. So we're definitely getting a lot higher very quickly.
That's
far
beautiful.
there's been 220 trades on the Havino Rito currently.
Fantastic. And I think I had asked this time, like, how are most people using it? What's the what is the common way, the most common way it's being used right now in terms of
I
crypto
think it's
or
still Monero
cash?
for Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of Bitcoin Monero offers, and there's a lot of Monero Euro offers.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, euro is pretty popular compared to US dollar. So if there's any American users that want to buy and sell Monero, definitely check out Havino, guys.
You know, I'm wondering if the euro is more popular because of the fact that it's doing worse. I mean, let's face it, the euro itself is compared to the US dollar crap, and everybody knows it. So I'm kind of wondering if that's why the euro is actually more popular than the dollar, is just because people want out of it more.
Yeah, €1 equals $1.07 currently.
People
Could
might
be,
also
yeah.
be afraid to use the dollar and look like they're a money service business selling dollars for Monero. Obviously, that applies with the euro as well, but there might be more concern on the dollar side.
Well, with Havino, I mean, there are avenues by which a person could very easily keep themselves off the radar while doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I just think people might have that hesitation. And we always put out this, don't be on there for business purposes, be on there for personal use purposes, and then you should be fine.
And so many people do not seem to get that. Like you say that to people, and they're like, "Oh, it's fine. I can be on there for business," and then they get arrested, and they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
maybe I can't. Maybe I should have listened."
Yeah,
or maybe you flagrantly and like even exaggeratedly disobey your tyrants as loud as you possibly can, because there are not enough tax courts and there are not enough lawyers, and it is very resource and time intensive. So clogging the system, throwing yourself upon the gears of the machine is something to consider, people. I'm just saying, there's plan A and there's plan B, and plan B is armor plated. So it's a very good plan B. All right.
Yeah, the
I
plan
like
B, I mean, most people intend to reduce their attack surface, And in the case of, if you use Havino, for example, you only reveal your financial details, not to a company such as, an exchange. You reveal it to another peer, only that. And if trade goes wrong, you also reveal it to an arbitrator. But it's a whole different thing to reveal your financial details to a company that may report it, to the IRS or something, compared to just revealing your, you have a friend somewhere and you reveal your, your bank details so that they can send some money. That's a whole different thing,
Exactly. I can't see Havino Pierce sending you a 1099.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, XMR Bazaar functions in the same way, right? So I do think that is a layer of protection for sure.
The two together are incredibly unstoppable. I think that it's kind of beautiful how they were almost synchronous in their release, because the one has this clearly defined purpose. I think it was like 4 shows ago where everybody was saying we need to do this, we need to do that, and I was like, okay, that would be great and all, but why do we care when the goal is to be able to get into XMR and stay in XMR, and then you really just want the stuff? Who cares about the dollars anymore? And then I've been nothing but impressed with the two systems doing exactly what they're designed and intended to do. It's like you put the two together, you can get into Monero, you can stay into Monero, you can earn Monero. It's like, and it follows all of the philosophies that this whole thing is all about.
I do admit that I'm a little bit concerned about XMR Bazaar, not just because it's a centralized service, and I understand why it was done that way, and I get it. But something like something like Open Bazaar, I think would be something to work on, or making XMR Bazaar decentralized. And the fact that it really should have an onion, because they own the DNS system. They can take away xmrbazaar.com whenever they damn well feel like it. And so without some sort of backup onion or some way to access it outside of the traditional DNS system, I think there could be a problem.
I thought we did create an onion address for it.
If there's an onion, it is not well publicized.
I don't think that exists yet.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll definitely do that. And then, yeah, in terms of moving it towards being more decentralized, yeah, I'll completely on board for ways in which we could try to do that. We just want to balance it with creating something that's self-sustaining, that has some kind of revenue model where we can fund the continued development and maintenance and administration of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I see why it was done the way it was done. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that in the future we should look towards these things.
Yes, for sure. I'm thinking of selling my Monero silver coin on XMR Bazaar. I just purchased this at PorkFest.
I have one as well.
I have a copper and a silver one.
That's nice.
But yeah, when you going back to what Shortwave was saying, like you see, there was local Monero, right? It was a centralized exchange meant for peer-to-peer trading, right? For some reason or the other, they went down. What happened, I don't know. But one thing that is possible is that they got popular, and then they faced, due to being a centralized exchange, right? They faced financial regulations. So the target was put on their back, and they shut down, right? This would not happen in the case if the exchange or the XMR Bazaar would be a decentralized place, right? Like you run it on your laptop, that would be much more resilient, is what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they definitely consider that when XMR Bazaar becomes too popular. When it becomes like there's a huge amount of people, it gets popular, and it also attracts the attention of financial regulations and who knows what. Be prepared for this.
For sure. Yeah, I mean we need to constantly be evolving. Michael 10 is saying, is XMR Bazaar open source yet? No, officially it is not yet open source, but it will be. Just not yet. Anarchio is an interesting guy. So he's constantly fixing things up. Hopefully we'll get him to the point where we feel like we're ready to publish the code, make it open source. But it will be 100%. Guys, I have to tap. I see.
Were there any other dispute resolutions or things solved by the moderator and stuff like that?
What do you mean? What are you referring to?
Like the intrinsic dynamics of the system, like if there was a dispute and a resolution of that, or if there was
I don't actually know if we would even have access to that information. If it did happen, I don't know that.
That's a very good answer.
Yeah.
That's the answer I wanted to hear. Yeah. Thanks.
I mean, it's possible that somebody could like talk about it after the fact and like provide the answers, but I'm pretty sure only if the mediator and buyer and seller were to bring it up would it even be available for anybody to know.
Yeah, just between those three people or two people if you don't have a mediator involved.
Yeah, because it's a non-custodial, like the what's that called? The multi-sig wallet it's non-custodial until the transaction actually takes place, and it just goes peer-to-peer. It's not so I don't think
and all the communications are encrypted and only between the buyer and the seller and the mediator if the mediator is involved in a multi-sig transaction.
Speaking of interesting platforms, I was recently approached to take an accessibility look because of talking last show about accessibility. I was approached to take an accessibility look at this new thing that's being worked on for Monero super chats, and from what I can see, it is really looking really good so far. I made a couple of suggestions on things that can be fixed and a couple of things that I think could be improved, but
fantastic.
it's doing really well, and I think we're going to see it decently soon.
You're talking about XMR chat?
Yes, I just wasn't going to say it because I didn't know if I was at liberty to say it or not.
Okay. No, I love that you're contributing. Thank you, man.
Michael has been pounding the table. You know, Michael 10, like the Twitter guy with the memes, right? Like, he's been saying forever, and I that it's needed. But the thing is I've always thought that having that as a platform for super chats and stuff, that might be one of the best marketing strategies Monero could possibly have, is to put a Monero super chat, and then, you know, people who are receiving the super chats could like say it without even saying the amount, hopefully. And they could say, and we have a Monero super chat from such and such. The question is, and then people are like, what's a Monero super chat? And they're getting the attention from this, you know, celebrity, internet celebrity I acknowledge. And then in order to get that form of recognition, that will bring them into the fold of trying to secure Monero for themselves and getting used to transactions and like, so it makes a lot of sense to me. And then the Monero tipping thing is, I mean, so far all I've seen is like, it's clearly getting people's attention when somebody big in not just Monero, but crypto in general, like Vic is tipping people in Monero and tipping people with like crypto wallets. I think it goes a long way for drawing the right attention.
Definitely. Yeah, we don't talk that up enough. The Twitter tipping thing that Cake has built into it. It's very cool. You just have to put your Monero address in your profile. I don't use it, and I don't know. I got to start using it more. And it's a super easy way to essentially send anybody a Monero tip on Twitter.
Is that integrated into Mastodon or any of the other services, or is it just Twitter or X now?
I don't know. Tux, you got any info on that?
What was the question?
Is the tipping thing that works on Twitter or X, is that integrated with other services such as Mastodon?
Yes. BirdPay works with Twitter, Mastodon, and Noster. And we have support for OpenAlias also, if you have like a DNS with OpenAlias.
Cool. Okay.
How the hell do you guys get all this shit done? It's kind of crazy to think about all of the little things that are getting done where it's just like, what the
Can I
guys,
say
by the
something?
way? Oh yeah. I just want to quickly say something, Elias. This is a soap that I bought at PorkFest with Monero. So I was trying to get the guy to list these on XMR Bazaar. Here's like a perfect example. Everybody needs soap. It's not like body soap. This is like for washing your dishes. So
cool. I was just hoping it was a body soap. I was going to be like, I need that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a perfect example, right? Everybody needs soap. Start selling soap on XMR Bazaar. I would love to purchase all my soap with Monero.
If you put soap on XMR Bazaar, I will buy it.
Exactly.
I swear I will buy it because I need it.
Elias, I'll let you take over, and I'll be listening to you guys. But I have to sign off. I have a hard stop over here. I got to do things in the background. Keep it going, Tux. If you don't mind, can you keep it going for a little bit and close it whenever you want?
Yeah,
Tux. Sure. Yep. All right, Elias, take it away. I'll be listening to you, but I won't be participating. Go for it, man.
Thanks. I hope you're listening because this is for you. What I want to say. Partly. So a bit going back to the politics issue you were discussing a moment ago. I just want to say my main point about that is that please don't pretend that the left and right scale in politics is the same as the liberty scale. I know that it sometimes seems like that, but it's really not. And I know this very certainly because in Sweden, where I live, it's the opposite. Okay, so if I want to have someone understand what I mean when I talk about that I'm afraid of a surveillance state, I can't go to the right-wing parties. They don't understand what I talk about. They are allied with the nationalist Sweden Democrats party founded by Nazis. They are building a surveillance state together with the conservative moderate party, they're called in Sweden. That's the government we have now. They're deciding to be tough on crime, to put up cameras everywhere. You know, that's the right are doing that. And I consider myself more left than right. So I really want to emphasize that, and I think it's also wise from a strategy point of view to find who your friends are, that you should look at on both sides, actually. You should look at those who understand the issues, and you will be able to make them hear your arguments. And some of them will be on the left as well. And many of them will be also not on any of those sides, so to speak.
Yeah, no, great points. I think here in the U.S., in this country right now, the liberty values currently align more with the right in for a lot of issues. For some, not. I think there's crossover on both sides, but here in the U.S. currently, in terms of if you're concerned with the technocratic state, if you're concerned, leaning right seems to be where you want to currently go, and those things are constantly changing too in the U.S. and obviously in other countries as well. So that's just the current situation here right now. I would say I personally think going in that direction right now, the Trump direction in this country is the best thing for liberty. But if you listen to Alaska Anon, he makes very good reasoning as to why you might not want to do that, right? Like we see with Milei in Argentina. Is it just now that you'll have somebody who caters just enough to those ideas where it keeps everybody at bay and prevents them from taking kind of even a further step against tyranny? But I don't know. I don't know what you do there. That just gets back to, well, just ignore it all, opt out, and use Monero. But yeah, very good points, Elias.
The only good thing I could possibly see about a delay tactic, in this case, would be that it gives us more time to continue to build the technology and make it better, instead of having everybody like that wants to opt out swamp us all at the same time. So that might be helpful, but it really depends on what your thoughts are on that.
True. All right, guys. Now I'm truly signing off, but I will be listening in the background.
Bye, Doug.
Cheers.
I would like to hear from Display Name here. But I wonder if he's going to chime in or not. Because it's always good to see a new but I would love to hear you talk if you like, what brings you to Monero, your story. It's probably my favorite thing that happens in Monero is when okay, apparently for the viewing and listening audience, his mic does not work. But now we lost him forever. Oh yeah, go for it. If you can, Tux, can we make it where he can present? Because he apparently has.
Why does he want to present if he
Yeah.
can't talk? No one's gonna know what he's talking about, because if you just chat in the chat, no one's watching is gonna see it.
Yeah, like
Gotta get a mic, dude.
Yeah, or if you could send us a link and we could like look at it first or something like that, that would be pretty cool. We'll give him a chance to type real quick. So I thought it was interesting though, all of the PorcFest stuff about how popular goldbacks have gotten in the last 4 years. I mean, they've been around for a while, but what did you think about that? Like, they're definitely taken off now.
Dude, goldbacks, yeah, definitely are.
I'm considering buying some, but all I see on X or Bazaar is offers, but in the US, I don't know if I can actually purchase some and then get it delivered in the EU, because I think that would be, it would cost a lot to deliver, right?
2 weeks ago, I think it was, I linked a version of it in the EU. Let me see if I can find it again, Nihilist. Hold on.
I'm interested, yeah.
The guest earlier, the special guest, was talking about the algorithms and everything, and the fact that like your news feed on things like Spybook are good news, bad news, good news, bad news, good news, bad news, and it keeps you scrolling because you never know if you've actually completed, like actually viewing the things that are new. Timed feeds where things are arranged in chronological order help with that. So I go on Noster in the morning and I look and I see what I've missed since I was on last time, and then I might make a couple of comments on some posts. I might make a new post, and then I leave. I don't stay on there. With Lemmy, I go on there in the morning. I check what I've missed over the past 12 hours or whatever while I was sleeping. I might make some comments. I might make a post, and then I leave. It's not this constant doom scrolling, like scrolling, and before you know it, half the day is gone because it's in chronological order. You've seen everything that's new.
That makes sense, yeah. But at least there is a decentralized alternative to those centralized places like Twitter, YouTube, etc. I think it's still a good tool to have, at least. Yeah.
I was actually saying earlier that there is absolutely the stupidest thing you could possibly do is to be bearish on open source software, because with open source, it may start out bad, like it may start out and be complete crap, and the centralized alternatives may be better, but over time, open source is a cumulative snowball, and it just grows and grows and grows and gets better and better and better, faster and faster and faster, and eventually it overtakes the centralized alternative, either through what they lovingly like to call enshittification or whatever. They do these centralized services do something that everybody hates, and people are like, oh my god, this is terrible, and they go to the open source thing.
I totally agree with you, yeah. Like I recently said in one of my blogs, like all centralization can lead to will either be regulations, or simply the platform would be forced out of business, right? And if for whatever reason, the government above the said company, let's say, I don't know, Discord, for example, if they start to be like very pushing forward, regulations and agendas, whatever, and it impacts the users like in a very negative way below, then these people seek alternatives. And if these alternatives are already there and fully functional and open source, then it's all for the better, right? So yeah, definitely don't lose faith in open source software. Like you were saying, I totally agree. Sometimes it takes time to get to the very good level of functionality, but eventually it pays off, right? Because open source means you have privacy when you use it locally, right? So that's the one thing you will not have with closed source software anywhere, with any closed source software at all, right?
And with open source software, you get the privilege of when you put a bug report in, or when you put a feature request in, or when you code a feature and it gets implemented and added, you have the right to say, I helped build that. I made that. That was my thing and I helped fix it. And that you take some ownership over the thing, and you made it better for everybody else in the future. You made it better for them than it was for you.
Yeah, I
mean, Nihilist, I did link they're called Aurum notes, or Aurum is the one who makes a lot of these anyway. But there are alternatives to goldbacks that you can buy all over the world.
Okay.
And they're measured in milligrams of gold, as opposed to the proper standard known as the troy ounce, or the proper standard known as the mile, or the pound, or the ton. Merca.
Okay, thanks a lot, man.
I'd like to add on the open source topic, or free software, or Libre software, as it's also called. But I completely agree with you that there are so many advantages there. And I think also it's something that this community, Monero community, or wider, I don't know, privacy software community, let's say, should take the opportunity to become allies more explicitly with the rest of the free software movement, because you can help each other a lot and you face the same obstacles a lot. And maybe the main thing, I think, is where Monero is sort of on the front line, which makes it very interesting. But it's really the same issue that will come in other areas as well, is the question of is it legal to compile your own code? Because that's the logical endpoint of, if you try to outlaw something like Monero, the way to do it is finally you have to say that it's not allowed to program your own program on your own computer and compile it and run it. That's going to become illegal. That's where we're heading if people who want to outlaw things, if they get their way, that's where the road leads. And that's really bad for a lot of that's
Yes.
not only related to currency, it's a much bigger issue. And
even worse than that,
yeah.
it's gonna come disguised as a social thing, like you are a programmer, you need to be licensed like a doctor, and then all the code that you produce is going to be somehow like under pressure, you know.
There's a whole nother layer to this too, which is I don't know if you guys have ever looked into the psychology and the philosophy of trust, like trust. So, for example, in law, we have trust law, and we have all kinds of laws about like whether or not somebody's a trusted party. So if somebody has attained a certain notoriety with officialdom, or, a notary, right? But when you get like really down to it, it doesn't matter what version of politics you're talking about. So, for example, the deeper you go into open borders versus closed borders, you always end up at the very bottom of the rabbit hole is high trust societies versus low trust societies. So it ends with trust. And it's the same with all things economy and money, right? So if you ever got really into, for example, the Ron Paul revolution, it's amazing to me how everybody picked up on the Federal Reserve part. Everybody picked up on the gold back part. But the strongest argument that Ron Paul was making was enforceable contracts, right? So a contract is a trust between two voluntary parties, or at least that's what it's supposed to be. And all the way down to the bottom of this is trust. Well, here's the thing. Writing software, the proprietary versus open source and all of that, it all boils down to trust. And it's even at the top echelons of economics, they call it the trust game, right? And so confidence, right? Confidence in your fiat or confidence in your contract or whatever is one of the key metrics for appraising its value. Well, confidence is your level of trust in a thing, right? And a person who swindles you is a con man, right? A confidence man. But a person who, you desire, they use the whole word, right? So to shorten the word is derogatory. If you're a con man, you're a bad guy. But if you're a confident man, you're desirable, right? So it literally all boils down to this idea of trust. Well, the reason why that applies to the compilation of the code, well, if you were at the tippy top of the people who war game out like what laws to create and what to enforce and all of that, you are depending on your victim to trust your ability to enforce. Okay, so I'll give you an example. And I won't get into the details, but these two great Chinese leader, general, warrior guys that were both emperors, okay? Well, one of them was holed up in a town with a small bodyguard detail, and he sent all of the rest of his military to go make an attack. and one of his opponents was marching on the town that he was in. And so he gets he has all of his guard detail leave because they're basically useless at this point. They're not big enough. They're not. So go and hide somewhere in the city where you're not going to get wrecked. And then in order to avoid the city from being sacked, he goes and sits at the top of the defensive perimeter of the city, throws open the gates, puts some priestly garments on it, well, monk robes basically for that society, but and then he just starts playing music. And the leader of the opposing force immediately recognizes him on the top of the barrier and sees the gate open. And because he is so sure it's a trap, he leaves. He doesn't even try to take out the opponent. Okay. And the reason why I point that out is it is so ridiculously impossible to try to enforce a code compilation law, right? There's no way you're going to pull it off. Just like it is literally impossible to force people to pay taxes. There's no fucking way. Because like if it gets down to it, they can just refuse to produce. They can refuse to have anything. Taxation is literally impossible without the voluntary submission of everybody involved. But it's the belief that it can be enforced that continues the cycle, right? They're just using the same tactic as the general I was just discussing earlier.
That's a tricky one, man. You don't have so many people writing code, and the other ones will not have an argument against it. And then there is that social thing, like, oh, you're a coder, you're making 200 grand a month or a year, and all that stuff. So,
but here's the thing, though, we've seen this.
It could happen. I think nothing surprises me anymore. You know, after COVID, nothing surprises me anymore. So
well,
if they ban like open source software tomorrow, I don't know, and Kazakhstan or something.
Well, 20 years ago, I was heading up a campaign to teach all of these people in Nebraska about the future business model at the time, where John Deere was going to switch to proprietary software and all of this other stuff, where they were going to make it impossible to use your tractor without a subscription, right? And I was talking to all these people like, yeah, I'm not interested in computers, blah, blah, blah. Those same people were calling me to figure out how they could undermine the software, or all of the mechanics that knew nothing about, you know, how most like heavy duty diesel mechanics, like, well, I don't deal with those computers. There's guys for that. I won't do it, whatever. Then the diesel exhaust systems came along, and all of a sudden, every single fucking one of them is like a master programmer, right? People, out of necessity, if that need in the market is not being met, they will figure it out, right? You know, I would be willing to bet that non-compliance with EPA restrictions is higher than compliance in the realm of like fuel systems. I would be willing to bet. I mean, just look at video games, right? When video games moved to this high level of like having a key, proprietary, everything, and then what do they call it? Like dead software for games, or abandonware. Yeah, so when abandonware becomes an issue, all of a sudden the ability to crack all of this proprietary software in video games becomes ubiquitous, right? And it's now at the point where a movie comes out and there is a race to see who can be the first one to put the torrent out, right? It takes hours sometimes. In fact, how often is a movie leaked before it hits the theaters at this point? It's ridiculous, right? And so my point is, let it happen. The sooner the better, because if they aren't ready to lock it down, there's no fucking way they're going to pull it off. And so then it just becomes, are people going to put up with it and comply or not? Now, I do agree that they will almost certainly use a licensing methodology, right? But then again, you go to any ghetto anywhere and you can get your hair cut without a license like all day long.
I have a new topic I'd like to bring up when it's convenient. You guys good to go?
Go ahead.
So
we're here for.
One of the things that I brought it up in the past, and for some reason it got sort of pushed aside, and people didn't want to talk about it at the moment. But maybe we've got some people on here that want to discuss it now. Is, I was thinking it's really, for adoption, for full adoption, in the circular economy for Monero, it's going to be pretty important that we have these point of sale terminals ubiquitous everywhere, where they accept Monero alongside Visa. We might not be able to like completely unseat Visa all at once, but let's go head to head with them. Let's talk to those POS machine vendors and be a parallel right alongside them on the same machine type of thing. And
so believe it or not, that actually you were not pushed aside. And I will see if I can find it here in a second. But most point of sale machines have moved over to iPads, and iPads can run a Cake wallet or whatever it is. But not only that, that's the preeminent discussion in most of the Nodo threads that I've been watching with the little time that I have. And not only that, but point of sale systems, what is it? Rhino wallet, I think, is really actually, I bet you Shortwave knows a little bit about this, but do you know about the Rhino
wallet's a business enterprise wallet, not really necessarily point of sales oriented.
Oh, okay.
No, I should disagree, because point of sale is anytime you need to make a transaction. So there is no point of sale. There is me with a smartphone on the ass of the world or anywhere. I want to buy something, I make a transaction, and the end of story. So,
well, there is like software that's designed to be more useful in a merchant sense.
But that comes after. First, we do all the transactions anywhere, and then I don't know, like.
Well, look, forcing vendors to run a separate thing for Monero is not getting the job done, obviously, because the adoption is very, very slow. So integrating with the same platform they already have to use with Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah, but your argument is you are saying that the point of sale systems would have to adopt it. There is no
That's
adoption.
never going to happen. And like what Alaskan was
that's
saying,
the point. Like,
to promote
first
people who use like iPad, because like a lot of POS is like iPads, tablets. I mean, not all of them, but it's pretty common now. It's really easy now to just be like, hey, use Cake wallet or something to accept crypto.
Well, let me finish, guys. So you got a gas station down the road. He's got a POS machine. He's dealt with this same vendor for this POS machine for the past 15, 20 years. And he's getting good service out of it. He doesn't want to change. And what are you going to come up with another solution? You got to make him train his employees on? No, you want to go to the vendor of that POS machine, which is ubiquitous everywhere you go. It's at Walmart. It's at every gas station. It's everywhere. And you want to go to that vendor, and you want to get Monero incorporated into that machine. And that's what I don't see anyone talking about.
No, but that's the organic adoption. The organic adoption is like gonna come from every side,
Follow that strategy rather than all these sort of sidelines.
You're breaking.
Yeah, you started cutting out a little bit at the very end.
But as far as what you're talking about,
you're talking about an ideal world. I think we have to. I don't know how you're going to get adoption unless you can, especially parallel adoption.
So.
I don't know how you're going to get adoption
Yeah, you're breaking.
In my
No, you're
opinion,
muted. I think he's done. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
In my opinion, when you want to make Monero being adopted on as much as possible, you need to first look at who is less likely to be against Monero, right? So if you go to a corporation and just ask them, okay, please start accepting Monero, there's a very high chance they will say no, right? But when you go the furthest away from those people that are not likely to accept Monero, let's say the individuals at the bottom of the economy, right? You first go there, I would say. Then you start going up, let's say, to small businesses, like I don't know, farmers, for example. People that have like a one-man business, right? You see if they can accept Monero then, and then try to move up the ranks, right? Small companies, then higher and higher and higher. But don't start with corporations, is what I would say. First start with individuals, then small businesses, and then try to move up. That's organic adoption, yeah.
Another thing is that I don't necessarily know that any of these point of sale vendors are going to willingly put Monero into their point of sale systems, because those vendors are very likely controlled by the government, and the government wouldn't want that. So the only way I see it really happening is if it gets so ubiquitous that everybody uses it, or if you go out and start a point of sale business yourself, making and selling point of sale terminals that have both the traditional accounts, the traditional payment methods, and Monero incorporated in it, and then sell that point of sale system for less than the competition is. So actually doing it as a business, not as a not begging somebody to do it, but actually going out and doing it yourself. That's the only way I could see that occurring.
Yeah, because one thing
Guys,
that
just chiming in real quick because I've been listening in. I think something that's often overlooked, it came up at PorkFest, is Shopify, right? So Shopify is a tool you can use for creating a marketplace online, accepting goods and services, accepting payment online. But they also do have a POS system, and I believe they do have cryptocurrency built into their or ways to add it as apps to your Shopify account. So effectively through a Shopify POS system, I think you could very easily, at this point in time, accept Monero, for example.
And another thing is being able to bridge the gap, right? So if there's been a lot of attempts at trying to basically ratify payments through the Visa network the same way that you would any other point of sale system. But then you use that to kind of leverage the idea that people already want to do it. So why is this vendor paying the extra 3% on the transaction? Right? So you show them that they're already accepting these transactions and they're paying 3% in order to do it. Right? So, that's kind of an interesting angle to approach it, where they're in business to make money. So why are they leaving 3% on the table when you're already paying in a different cryptocurrency? And then you also point out to them, whether you pay your taxes or not, you're leaving yourself wide open to, being audited, as opposed to accepting crypto and then doing it, in a traditional sense. There's a link that he wanted to share for, I don't know if Tux is even still here, but in the business section, there's a local exchange in Armenia. And that was what Display Name was trying to show.
One way I think that most businesses start accepting crypto at some point is they look at what's the demand on the market, right? So that's going back to what I was suggesting. If you first target the individuals themselves to adopt Monero, and there is enough demand from those individuals to the businesses later on, well, they will start accepting Monero, right? And I think that's the most likely way this is going to happen, right? If a corporation starts to accept Monero or from the get-go, I mean, great, right? That would be much faster adoption, but it's just more unlikely, right?
Well,
Especially
one thing
new.
that I think is really interesting. So I have some battle buddies down in Florida, so I'm kind of tuned in with what the Monero scene is like there. And then including Prancing, I would consider him like a common ally in the cause. But it's really interesting to see like there's a huge difference where I am very sure I would have no trouble buying literally anything in Alaska for Monero. Even if the guy's never heard of it before, I guarantee you I could get fuel, I could get anything, right? But I can never get them to spend it, right? Once they have it, they never fucking spend it. They won't ever let it go, right? So that's the other half of the demand thing, right? Where people will take it, but they'll never, ever put it back into the economy. So even though it has a higher price, it has a lower liquidity because once it's gone forever and people hoard it like it's, you know, the most valuable thing ever to them. And then on the other hand, in places like Florida, it's not as hard to get a hold of it, but it's really hard to find places to spend it. And you have to take all of these extra steps, right? Like I can actually get 50% off on 100 pounds of cucumbers right now. A guy just offered this to me yesterday, right? I can get a 50% discount on cucumbers if I pay in Monero. That means my price for cucumbers in Alaska is like a seventh what it is everywhere else in the United States.
That's
if
some
I
serious
use Monero.
savings for cucumbers.
Yeah, it's
50% off. Wow.
50% off of Alaska prices in the summer. You have no idea how many cucumbers there are right now in Alaska, right? It's ridiculous. But the thing is like I can get stuff for Monero all day long, but then trying to get a hold of that Monero again is just, it doesn't happen. And I've pointed this out for a while. And then the other thing is even the means that I have to get Monero outside of exchanges, there's, it could take a while. There's delays, all this other stuff. And then, it makes it worse when the price keeps going up, right? And it's funny is even when we saw that huge price, I mean, in Monero terms, it's a crash, but in crypto terms, it was like nothing, right? But even when we saw Monero drop down like lower than it had been for a very, very long time, still nobody was willing to sell. In fact, all of them were like itching to buy more, but you can't, right? Like, because the minute you get it from any source, anywhere, and then the lead time on, so I get a big pile of cash or I get a bunch of gold and I want to trade it for Monero, like the lead time on it is ridiculous, right? So I get it. Then what I got to do is send it to freaking Japan or something, just to get a little Monero. And then you got to wait. And then you're trying to make sure that you're not going to get ripped off. And it's like a huge pain in the ass. And then most of the people up here are so ridiculously busy all the time. Like chasing anything down for any reason takes forever. Now, in Florida, on the other hand, you got a lot of the people are retired. Like the largest percentage of the American population of retired people is, I think, in Florida, right? They got tons of time on their hands. There's nowhere to spend their Monero at all. They can usually find it pretty easy, especially with how much Monero is used in like drug trafficking events and stuff, right? Like, a place like Florida, there's tons of people sitting on Monero for like cocaine or whatever, it's like totally the opposite in every conceivable way, the Monero economy between Florida and Alaska. And I've worked with a few people trying to arbitrage, but like just setting it up and getting it to go through and all that other stuff, it is a headache and it's a huge time investment,
All right. I think it's almost 4 hours, so I'll probably try to end the stream here. But if you guys, of course, still want to talk in the StreamYard, even after stream ends, you can totally do that.
Will you share that XMR Bazaar post for the Armenian guy who was trying to make sure it's not some weird scammy looking thing, but that's what he was trying to get on for, was to show his XMR Bazaar, like a business listing in Armenia.
Which guy?
It's in the chat right now. Display name, put it in there.
don't see it.
Private.
I see a XMR link, but it just goes to search. It's not an actual link to a listing.
Oh yeah, that is what it is. Maybe you can try again, but yeah, I mean, I get it though. 4 hours, long time. I get it.
Oh, okay. I think he actually sent it this time.
Yeah.
All right. I'll show this real quick. Let me pull it
Also,
up.
I was hoping that we would get a chief executive officer for a POS terminal manufacturer on a Monero talk, and have Doug, go in depth, plan a record with their evolution of their POS terminals and when Monero will be included. That would be a great Monero.
That's pretty. That'd be.
That would be amazing, though. I mean, I would point out though, the guy heading up the Nodo project, he and I actually had a little bit of back and forth. Like, he's hoping that this becomes a vehicle by which a lot of open source and hardware technologies that serve like a functional, practical purpose can hit the market. I mean, that would be amazing. In fact, if you could replace POS terminals with something that's open source hardware, easy to use, all of that. I mean, Nodo is already making it much easier to be a node. If you can make it easier to be a POS terminal for everything, even integrate it all into one app, you can see how that could go really well.
All right. So what is this?
There's a business idea.
Well, the really easy thing, thankfully, is that if you want to accept Monero, all you have to do is print out a QR code and put it on your counter. You do need a view only wallet so that you can take a look to make sure the actual transaction has come in. But you don't need to have the phone or laptop or whatever on all the time. You can just print out a QR code and put it under glass under your counter glass or whatever, and people can scan it. You don't have to have the thing charged at all times.
By the way, this is by no means an endorsement from anybody on this show. It is just to make people aware that if you happen to be in Armenia.
Thank you. Yes, I'm trying to get through.
And even if you are in Armenia, you should not buy Monero.
Is this just in our exchange in Armenia?
This is for educational purposes only. We are not endorsing the purchase of Monero if it happens to be illegal in Armenia. We are just saying.
Is this a real shop? Wow.
Yeah, it looks.
Yeah, see, they don't have these in the U.S., but I've seen some other countries that have actual stores that you can go into. And
well, like in Argentina, they have the what do they call those things? Doug was talking about them. They have those too, where you can just go to an actual place. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
And you can go to an actual place, and it's a currency exchange. So we don't have that here.
Well, when the boomers die,
what exactly that thing you just had up though? Was that like an in-person exchange?
Yeah, in Armenia. Yeah.
No KYC.
It's pretty cool.
Just so you know, Shortwave, we don't have long to go because when the boomers die off and commercial real estate rental prices plummet, it'll actually be really cheap to set stuff up like this. So
that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Great conversation, great stream, as always. Always pretty long, but, we do it like that here. Yeah. And if you all want to continue talking after the stream ends, you can totally do that. Link to our guest, Monero Master, is in the description. That should be his Twitter. And links to all the other social medias should also be in the description. And if you guys want to check out XMR Bazaar, you can try it out right now at xmarbazaar.com. And yeah, if you guys want
buy
to
your Nodo immediately.
Monero Nodo, yep, Monero Nodo, and you can also purchase Monerotopia early bird tickets for November, Mexico City, right now at monerotopia.com. But yeah, thanks, guys.
Have a great week.
God bless you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monero